All right, good morning, everyone, and welcome to the City of Alpharetta's Design Review Board Workshop Session. Today is Friday, May 16th, 2025. Welcome, good morning. I will turn the meeting over to Mr. Schroeder, and he will walk us through our applications that we'll be hearing at our public hearing starting at 9 o'clock this morning. Mr. Schroeder, the floor is yours.
Good morning.
Good morning.
So the first thing I'm not going to talk much about, but it's going to be the Providence Partners on Marietta Street. They are coming back. They had some conflicts, if I remember correctly, on their site plan, and a couple things that Pat, I believe, brought forward on some different plant materials. So Phil is here this morning, and he will run through those. I asked him to bring a bullet point of the changes and stuff so he can point those out pretty easily to you. So we'll move on from that one to the, go ahead.
And Brett, I know that, let's see, who missed that meeting in March? That was
Me and Eric.
Eric and, okay, all right, so you guys would be, yes. Okay, you can go ahead.
So long as Mr. Corkle shows up before that. If he doesn't show up before that, then we're only going to have
4.
Oh, we will have 4.
Yeah.
Never mind.
Okay.
I'm just
We'll
learning to count today. It's a hard
Still
thing in
have
the
a quorum,
morning.
okay. All right,
Okay.
very good. All right, thank you.
55 Roswell Street. If you remember, that's a building we looked at not long ago, a couple years maybe, but they never did a monument sign, and they're wanting to do their monument sign now. So this is an image. We'll let them explain it. The only issues that I have is they call out vinyl here, and that's not going to meet the downtown design guide, so I'll let you guys work on that. I would suggest something, whatever we do, and we'll make sure that we get it in the redo of the guidelines to put a minimum thickness on the letters when we're going to do an applied letter, because I'm getting a lot of like, well, we want to use 1/8 inch or 1/16 inch, and it's got a reveal to it. Yeah, it does, but still. So we'll research that a little bit and put a minimum thickness on those when they're just applied letters. I'm going to guess 1/2 inch is probably at a minimum.
Thickness meaning like the depth.
Thickness of depth of the letter, yeah.
It might be an issue on some of the smaller lettering to go that deep, like, you know, a 1/2 inch thickness. Is that, you're talking depth, right?
Depth.
So if you have like, even on the foundation social sign, you know, a tiny letter, you know.
Some of them will be, I think, yes. So we'll have to work through that. And
It might be under a minimum size, a certain size, you can drop to a 1/4 inch or something like that.
Yeah, we can, with, a minute, if it's going to be the permit, that's a good point. I think if it's going to be something that may change,
Oh, yeah.
tenant signage, yes, I think then maybe we should have a little bit less of that. But if it's going to be like this 55 Roswell Street, that's not going to change,
Right.
let's, we'll step that up. But that is a good point, Mr. Owen. I appreciate that. Literally, the only place on this site, on the street front, to put a monument sign, if Fulton County will allow it because of the water vaults, is right there where they're showing it. I'm suspicious that Fulton County's not going to let it on a full pad like they want to do with a footer and a base for real brick. So what I would like to have the opportunity to do, if it comes back, is for you guys to allow me to let them use faux brick or faux stone. What that would do would be to give them two steel posts for their structure that they could put in, and would just be a substantially smaller footprint of a footing in there, and might not even need a concrete footing. They might be able to put them down enough and just pack the dirt if it's, because I don't know how much they're going to be able to get around that water vault.
That's the vault that we're looking at in the picture.
That's
like right
this
behind the
vault
lamp-
right here, yes.
lamppost, yes.
Is it the width of it, or is it the weight of it? Like, as far as, because you,
I think it's going to be I think it's probably going to be the proximity,
okay.
but it's potentially going to be the width and weight.
Because if you had two steel columns with a proper footing for the columns, you could actually get steel shelf angles to build to hold the brick. Like at the
yes.
Manning House, they had a utility issue, and they put for a brick wall, and they had two steel columns, and they just carried it on a lintel.
Carried it on a lintel? Okay.
So there might be an option there if that becomes an issue.
I'm suspicious that, I don't even know if Fulton County's going to let them put it there, period.
Almost
But
a grade beam.
That's exactly what it
A
is,
grade
yeah,
beam,
and it just
so.
limits the size of the
Yeah.
So
foundation.
let's see what Fulton County.
yeah. So I think we just give them some flexibility and
Where's Pat?
leave that to staff, and we'll try to work through it. So, but other than that, I think it goes, I think the style of the sign works really well with the building. So this next one, this is not an architect doing this. It's not a professional person of design or anything. This is this is an office manager that was assigned to get the building able to be painted. It's up here on North Main Street. It's sort of catty-cornered, if you know, from Couch Construction, from their building, the dark one. And they want to use the same colors. So good reference there. We know what we did, and y'all, I'm sure, have probably seen it by now, what we did on the Couch Construction. They want to use the same colors. I swear I turned this package and re-uploaded it, but anyway, this is the house.
It's actually more yellow than that.
It's a, any color they put on this thing is going to be much better than what it is. So, that's that. We'll let her explain where and trim colors, because she does have a sheet in here that I didn't really understand what all of the highlights meant and stuff. So we'll let her explain what she's got going on there. Then we're going to go to 102 South Main, which is currently Salt. Salt is going to be revisioned into Little Alley Steakhouse. Same ownership group. They're going to revision Salt over, and he's currently attempting to find another location for Salt. Potentially Avalon. There's a couple other spots he's looking at, but he wants Salt to remain in Alpharetta, but not at that location. So these are comments from Norm, the downtown consultant. If you looked at these, I just want you to remember these are just comments. This isn't a new build. So we take them all with a grain of salt, and I think they're great. Yeah, and go from there. This is the site. The light gray built part of the building is the existing, and they want to add this portion out here. They've reworked the site plan a little bit to make it work. If you're familiar with that, I think there was like a bocce ball court there. Prior to that, it was the drive-through for, KFC.
Kentucky Fried Chicken.
I just dated myself there. So they've reworked that, and staff's worked with them pretty extensively on what they can do, because there was a lot of limitations, there's a lot of utilities around this site, a lot of different stuff. So, so staff, I heard in our staff meeting that they got at what they felt like was the best they could get out of the site plan. This one doesn't show it, but they are adding I believe, striped crosswalk and then some sort of a path through the grass and shrubbery or whatever's right out here, out to the sidewalk to make a sidewalk connection. That was one of staff's recommendations to them, and they are going to do that. I don't know if you guys want to talk about a different. I explained to Mr. Kramer and Mr. Swing when we had our pre-meeting that knowing this site and Taco Bell, they both sheet flow from each other to the center between them for stormwater. And there's a mass whatever between the two sites. That's where we worked with Taco Bell, and they redid that for both sites between them. Currently, I think Steve Manley put River Slicks maybe in there between them, if you've seen that in the parking lot there.
Brett, would you show us can you use your pointer just to show us
That's right here.
that island?
Yeah, this island right here. So everything sheet flows this way, and then the Taco Bell site flows that way. So we had talked about making this a raised crosswalk right here to kind of define it out a little bit better, but I don't think that'll work. So I don't know if you want to maybe suggest brick pavers or something like that to more delineate it, kind of like the downtown sidewalks or something. That's kind of you guys, but we can't raise it.
Are they going to use one of the parking spaces to create that, or are they going to do it in the island?
I believe they're using one of the parking spaces.
I mean, I think it's a great idea, though, to connect it better to downtown and
I think it's
get more
absolutely
pedestrians
yeah,
there.
Yeah.
And Brett, the parking count, now that they're expanding more dining space.
Yeah, the parking count with the downtown allowances for decreased parking and things like that, they're overparked. So even with the addition, so they're good on that.
Is it just two?
And you can see they're not touching these basically, so we didn't require that they add the landscape island in there, but they are doing the bulbs here for the new parallel parking that they're creating along there. So then down to the building. So this portion right here is the addition. One of the suggestions was to add this grid pattern to these two existing windows to help tie the front together. I think they did a pretty good job on the side here, adding some detail. The other side of the building doesn't really have much detail. It's got some bricked in areas where there were doors before from KFC and windows and different things like that. So there are some bricked in areas, but there's not a rhythmic pattern to it, sort of like this side. So it's a little nicer. We discussed with the downtown architect potentially raising this line a little bit and then doing windows in here. He felt like that would be a nice addition to a family restaurant in downtown, to have the windows on the side there, clear glass, so you could see people inside and things like that. The ownership group, though, however, said that's not the ambiance we're looking for with Little Alley Steak. So we're not going to do it if we're going to be required to do windows. So what he came up with, he'll present today, is a little bit of change. If you don't like this as is, he's got what staff felt like was a really nice addition of an arched window sort of in each of these spots in here. And I didn't upload it simply because I didn't want, if you guys like this, then he's happy with that. But there is an arch detail in here. You know, we could also do, we've done it on some other buildings where you do a detail where it looks like a window or something was bricked in, and then we change the brick pattern inside that to add some additional interest. He also will probably bring forward a formal shaped vine growing structure on the sides of the building.
What elevation, that elevation, which way does it face? What is it?
North.
This elevation would face the intersection. So it's
If we turn
this
it-
right here.
If you turn into Publix, and that road up there is
Yeah.
what you see,
This is the road into Publix right here.
yeah.
And
This
as-
is the big elevation that we were just looking at.
Gotcha.
I don't know that it's true north or anything. I think it's sort of probably a little more northwest.
Look
North-ish.
Look for the north arrow on the
Yeah.
drawings.
But that elevation has strong visibility as you're coming south on Main Street.
It has really strong visibility, which was part of Norm's thoughts on the windows and the, you know, seeing activity and things like that, light and different things. But it's just not the ambiance that they're looking for in Little Alley. And I think he's going to bring some pictures of current, and I believe he's got a location in Buckhead that's similar that he's trying to do the inside. So this is the rear. So this is existing. He's wrapping the back of the building. I think about right here is where the existing building comes straight back. The only thing I would suggest here is maybe let's see if we can do an interior stair, do a roof hatch and get that roof access inside, not on the outside of the building. And then potentially do some sort of screening for these. I think, I did not ask him, but I think the plan here where it says existing to remain, but then paint underneath it, I believe his intent is to paint the entire building so that it all looks the same, instead of having a new painted side and an old painted side.
Right now.
This is the other side that would face Taco Bell. So you can see there's a little bit of detail, but it's really sort of a hodgepodge of different stuff. So, and then we've got a couple of existing photos here. So, little light plan there. And then it looks like this loaded twice. Okay, moving on. This is Continuum. I knew it would come. Continuum. This is the multifamily. We looked, back when we did their design guide, they showed us some images of buildings, but mostly what they showed us was inspirational images and then the outside two buildings. So this is really the first time we're seeing this particular building. If you remember back, when we saw this, and it doesn't really matter, but when we saw this, this was two separate buildings. Staff didn't really have a one way or the other about it. We were, not really, didn't need to be two for us. There's no condition that said it had to be, but they liked it, and so they attempted to utilize that. They changed the parking to an interior deck and then left these two areas that are the entrance and exits to the deck recessed so that from the road and kind of the views you'll get from the angles will still look similar to two buildings instead of one massive building by stepping that back. And he told me, I don't remember, I want to say this is like 40 feet recessed, something like that.
Brett, if you look at the October 23rd, 2023 package, yes, the buildings were separate, but this kind of gives the same appearance as the buildings being separated with.
Yeah,
within the
I
interior.
agree. I think it, I don't think it's a lot of times council does the things where substantially similar. I don't think this would be not substantially similar. If they flushed that up and made a one underground kind of drive, now maybe it's not substantially similar because now we've got what looks like a really massive building. But staff thinks this is great. These are the buildings. They do have these elevations marked, but as we all know, I'm not super great with east and west, but I believe that this side would face 400 and this side would face West Side Parkway. Even though there's buildings between it, that's the direction. Then, which would make this area the retail and amenity deck and stuff like that. So here's one of the long sides, the north elevation, which should be the Windward Parkway side. Again, I don't think you're going to see this building from Windward Parkway. I'll go back up to the site plan. It's a decent distance away from Windward. They're doing a new drive road that comes in there that's by Cabernet, by Cabernet. So they're sort of redoing that. So it's going to get re-landscaped and all that. So I think you'll catch glimpses, but you're not going to see a great amount of this building from Windward Parkway. And then we've got the other side, south side, which would face their site.
Here's the site plan.
I believe that this is the Windward Parkway elevation. Thanks. And then we've got some images here. I think it breaks it up pretty nice, using the different materials. I think it goes along sort of with what we saw back in the design guide. One thing that staff has realized through a couple of projects that we've done more recently is the importance of this area down here that's retail and sort of public space. The glass being tinted or gray or have a sheen to it really doesn't fit what staff's trying to do with public spaces and things. So we would, and we're going to talk about it in our guideline discussions, but we really want to try to focus on pedestrian level clear glass.
I think the retailers want that too.
You're talking what you want to do, staff, you're trying to activate it, right? And make
Trying
it
to
look
activate it, yes. So,
Show people. see
so
people.
for example, the Hamilton Hotel over here. If you don't catch the light just right, you can't see inside the building.
And a lot of times it looks closed.
And so it looks closed, even if you're walking right by it. Now if it's a little bit darker and the lights are on inside, now we can see in. But it just looked great in a picture. It didn't turn out in reality the way we expected. So we're going to make some tweaks to the code and also to your guidelines to work on pedestrian level glass and things like that. Now, that's not saying all of it all the way to the ground. Everybody always says, hey, we got to have some sort of privacy or something. But so we'll just have to work through that. But that's sort of what we're going to push everybody towards is clear glass on pedestrian levels.
That makes sense.
Nice building. I like the hydrangeas. I wish mine were that blue.
Just have to fertilize them, Brett,
What, apparently.
every day.
It takes a village. Somebody put me a lot of plants on my site. Material sheet. And then here's the site plan. So I don't know what this distance is from Windward Parkway, but if you see that as you're driving 45 miles an hour down Windward Parkway and you have details you can look at on this building, you're going to wreck.
You're not paying attention.
You're going to wreck. And the same thing from west side over here. It's just not going to happen.
So, but the streets they're putting in are public, correct?
I'm sorry.
The streets they're putting in will be public streets, correct? They're not private.
They will be accessible, whether they're public or private. I don't know if the site's taking care of them, is that kind of thing. They won't be gated or anything. There'll be pedestrians from the public,
Public streets, it might
Flowing,
be,
yes.
they might have a maintenance agreement or whatever.
something like that, yes.
So the opportunity here, I'm not really concerned about what you see from Windward Parkway, but.
What you see from the
it's
streets.
The establishment of streetscape within now.
Yes,
How that all
absolutely.
starts, how all it can continuums across the site.
Yes, absolutely.
They've
And I
given
think
the-
they did a good job.
I think the view from Windward Parkway is secondary, doesn't really matter.
They've given the streets creative names.
I'm sorry?
They have given the new streets creative names.
They have.
Yeah.
They have given them some quite creative names. And I think they did a pretty good job with the streetscape. I didn't hear any comments about it from staff. It went through our staff review pretty easily. So I'll just scroll through here a little bit as you guys have all seen these. Every time I see privet, I just think like, oh goodness, we're putting privet somewhere? But yeah,
Just call it a
there we go. So these stoops are individual units that have flow out similar to the apartments out here. They've got some units that are rentals that are flow out onto the street. And I will say, I worked with them on a couple of questions they had about the stoops. Don't exactly remember what that was, what we were identifying. I think it was visibility and height, because some of them were going to have pretty good amount of stairs because the site falls down as it comes to the back corner. So they can tell you about that. And then there are site amenities, lighting, trash cans, and inspirational imagery. I believe that this is the high or the low side. And so that was going to be some pretty good sets of stairs on these first few units. So, and then the lighting, and that's it.
Okay, thank you, Brett. Any questions, comments? All right, let's adjourn the workshop session this morning. Go get our coffee cups refilled, and let's get back here in just a couple minutes to get started with our public hearing. All right, thank you.
Yes. Yes. I mean, you can handle it separately.
All right, here we go. Okay, good morning, everyone, and welcome to the City of Alpharetta's Design Review Board public hearing. Today is May 16th, Friday, May 16th, 2025. Welcome. Thank you for being here this morning. Just a gentle reminder, if you'll make sure your phones are either off or in the silent position, we would appreciate that. Roll call. Everybody's here this morning. Great. Thank you. Happy Friday. Thanks for being here. Okay, let's stand. We'll face the flag and have the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, thank you for that. Okay, next on the agenda, do we have any items from staff this morning? Anything from staff?
Yes, I'm going to read the public hearing procedures.
Okay, thank you, Ellie.
An individual requesting to be heard on a matter related to the purpose of the hearing must be recognized by the chair before addressing the board. Upon rising to speak, the speaker must identify himself or herself and furnish a home or business address before proceeding with any comments or remarks. The board will allow the proponents a total of 10 minutes to speak in support of an application, and opponents will be allowed 10 minutes to speak in opposition. Comments are first accepted from the applicant, followed by persons speaking in favor, and then from those in opposition. Upon conclusion of any opposing comments or presentations, the chair will allow the applicant to offer rebuttal if any time is remaining in the original allotted 10 minutes. And the chair has discretion to add time if needed. Thank you.
Thank you, Ellie. Appreciate that. All right, anything else from staff this morning?
Not that I can think of.
I think Taste of Alpharetta was well attended.
I heard. I heard. As not part of the planning group anymore, I bolted ASAP. So, yeah, I heard it was very hot though.
Okay, all right. Very good. Thank you for that. Okay, any items from board members this morning? Anything?
Well, just a quick question. You mentioned Norm Alston. Was that ever announced? I missed the last meeting, so maybe you brought that up, but. It wasn't.
Okay. So we have finally, it took us a while. We selected Norm months ago. And may have said a brief few things, but legal wouldn't allow him to officially be under contract until he had a Georgia license as an architect. So it took him a little bit to get through that bureaucratic process, but he has obtained that now. Norm is from Texas. He resides in Texas. His practices in Texas. He's phasing himself out of daily activities at his practice, and so this is sort of going to be his focus, is some contract work. He's worked pretty extensively with the Secretary of the Interior on some state and federal buildings and a lot of historic stuff across some national parks and different things like that. If he's ever here, we'll try to get him to come on a Friday when you guys are here so we can have a meet and greet. But so far, he's provided us some really excellent things. It'll take him a little bit to sort of get our feel and things, but he's provided, I know Michael Woodman, some really great comments for some public hearings that are coming up and things like that. And he provided great stuff for a couple of the cases for us. He provided me salt um, in probably 24 hours from when I sent it to him. And I asked him if he had any hand sketches or anything that he, can kind of add to his written thing. And about an hour later, I got those. Just amazing. So Norm Alston, I'll let you look him up if you want to. I believe it's Alston.
Okay, very good. All right, thank you for that update. Appreciate it. Anything else from board members this morning? Okay, there being none, I know, I will say this, and Brett and staff know this, we have formed subcommittees to look at different parts and pieces of our guidelines, and I think each of those committees have now been established, so I hope, I know one of the committees I'm on will be meeting this afternoon after this meeting to talk about the guidelines and that piece of the guidelines that we'll be looking at to make some tweaks to, so. And Brett, I did send to you yesterday a list of what I think are about a dozen different documents.
Applicable ones. Yeah, we have staff meetings on Tuesdays.
Okay.
So I'll get that over to Kathy and Michael and say what it was is Richard provided me what he feels like is other codes, LCIs, guiding documents, other things that we need to incorporate or you guys need to think about, and we need to try to get them all to meet up in our thing so we don't contradict each other or whatever. So I'm going to put that to staff and ask if we have anything else that anyone knows about or any that we should say, no, that's too old or whatever. So we'll get back to you on that.
Okay. So as soon as Brett and staff verify that, then I'll let all the committees know what all those guidelines and LCI studies and all that, which ones are applicable to our guidelines. So I'll do that. But that's kind of the list I started and sent to Brett. Okay, very good. Thank you for that. Okay, anything else from board members this morning? All right. Next item on our agenda is to approve the April 25th, 2025 Design Review Board meeting minutes. So I assume everybody's had a chance to look at those. Ellie did a great job of recording the minutes and taking copious notes for us. Anybody want to make a motion to approve minutes, please?
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we approve the DRB meeting minutes of April 25th, 2025. And the motion?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion with a second. A motion by Ms. Palmer, a second by Mr. Owens. Any comments or questions about the motion on the floor? There being none, I'll call for a vote. All in favor of approving the City of Alpharetta's Design Review Board meeting minutes of April 25th, 2025, please raise your hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. All opposed? No opposition and 2 abstentions. So 5-0-2 is the final tally for the vote, and the minutes are approved. All right. Thank you for that. Okay, on to our first applicant this morning, and that is Providence Partners Group. Are you here? Yes, you're here. Come on up or come on down, please. If you'll make sure you speak into the microphone, introduce yourself, and then walk us through the package today, please. Good morning.
I'm a developer, and I own the property at 204 Marietta Street.
Excuse me, Mr. Chairman, I think
Yes.
Eric and I need to recuse ourselves.
Yes, thank you for doing that, Ms. Palmer. So Mr. Rowan and Ms. Palmer were excused themselves from the presentation. They were not here in March to hear what you had in March, so they're
Yes.
excused. And we still have a quorum with the 5 of us, so we're good to go. Okay?
At the last meeting, there were some questions regarding the landscape. Unfortunately, my landscape architect has been transferred with his wife to Colorado, and my architect is in Mississippi today, so I'm flying solo. There were essentially 8 questions that were raised regarding the landscaping that you guys wanted cleaned up a little. Substituted some.
Are you going to plug something in? Because we don't see anything.
It's asking us, it's asking you to.
Oh, wait, you got to mirror your screen.
Okay.
So you need to do
Should be going. Oh, stop extending in mirror. Here we go.
That's that, but why isn't it your Joel?
Probably needs to mirror it. You can hit extend it, probably needs to mirror it instead. That way it'll be the same as what's on there.
I've lost, there it is.
Do which one, Joel?
Mirror, there's an option for mirroring.
I do this every day.
So that's what I'm saying.
Otherwise, you'll have
We saw it in March.
Just go over.
Yeah. Yeah. It was March.
Displays.
March. 2 months.
Yeah. I thought it'd plug in. I do it every day on my.
I'm not as savvy on a Mac, but let's see.
Displays.
Go to, I guess try advanced maybe? No, we don't want that. Here, color profile.
Welcome to Drive.
I can try. It's been a while since I had to.
Display options.
Shouldn't know why it's not coming up. I'll click it. Display settings.
I think the only thing I have that you guys don't have is the, my notes right there.
If you wanted to, how did you get it to extend, Brett?
I mean, it was automatic. It sets up.
Oh, mirror entire screen. Try that. So it was under there. Or-
Do we need to poll the audience to see if anybody knows a MacBook?
Somebody get a drink over the
There we go.
There we go. All right.
Sorry about
All
that.
right.
We're in like flow.
After reviewing the meeting in its entirety, he pointed out, which was lots of fun. These were the 8 points he came up with, or questions that were left. The first was to substitute the Salcovia for the Trident maples. We removed plant, I don't know what all this is. Replace them with crepe myrtles. Remove the cherries, replace with star magnolias. Noted for the creeping fig to be planted below the wall. Extended the row of shrubs above the wall. Then some of the planting in the tree islands per the meeting comments. The latest landscape plan at that time did not match exactly the civil plan, it was off a tad. And then he updated the plant takeoff.
On item number 1, is the new plant the Zelkovas or no, right? It's the
Trident.
the Tridents, right? It's just the way it was worded, it almost sounded the other way.
Yeah, I think
Okay.
you guys thought the Tridents were going to get too big.
Oh, so
No, Zilkovas is a horrible tree.
that's what I thought.
Okay.
I wouldn't call it horrible, but
I would.
That's messy, yeah.
yes.
I got one
it's
in my
messy.
front yard, it's messy.
Yeah. And just a quick point of clarification, it was during our March 21st Design Review Board meeting, not.
Yes, sir.
Not February,
Yes, sir.
on your notes there.
Oh, okay.
Anyway, please proceed.
So those were the questions that were left. Everything else had been approved.
Yeah, so this one, there's way fewer trees in the front of the building, right, than there was in the original? Because the original, all along the front of the building, there were trees. Is it just?
There were some questions about the power lines
Yeah.
that were there and what was going to get in the way and what could be trimmed back and what that would look like in the future, I believe was the question.
Yeah, this is, I mean, I think this is better because before there were so many trees that you wouldn't see the building hardly.
So just curious, what is the date on this drawing that we're looking at now on the monitor? Because I know in our package it was dated
You dated it
January.
4/1/25?
January 29th. So this is an updated version than what we saw in our package.
Yeah, the one on the package
Yeah.
looks like maybe it was the original.
It
'Cause
it was.
It is the original, yeah.
That's exactly what I'm looking at.
Yeah. Yep, okay.
All right, so I guess we can't do a side-by-side, just to walk through those notes you just had, or that list of what was changed, so we can see that. Just kind of walk us, all right, substituted,
I think it should say substituted trident maples for Zelkovas.
let's just, can we flip back to your plan just to check that?
Well,
Or maybe we need to take a picture of that or something, and then we can read. Oops, I didn't mean to mess up the,
apparently I don't know how to do that.
all right, let's see, let's do this. If you go back to those comments that you had listed, I'm going to take a picture of them on my phone, so then I can read through them while we walk through the new landscape plan. How about that? All right.
So you want to look at the,
Just what the list of the changes that you had made that were, okay, here we go. I'm going to, all right, read this. Okay.
I got it. I'll read mine.
Oh, oh, okay, thank you, Brett. Okay,
So if you want to go back, you can get your plan up, Phil.
okay.
that way we can just check things off, make sure they're,
And these were based on the comments that these bullet points are based on the comments that we had at the last meeting. Okay, so along the front, they substituted trident maples for the Zelkovas.
and those are, let's see, let's just check. Okay.
That's the ones across the front right there. And there may have been some others on there, but
Yeah, the back corner, those three, those were Zelkovas
Yeah.
before, and now they're trident, well, two are trident maples, one's a,
and then we had removed the Vitex from the Marietta Street landscape bed and replaced it with additional crepe myrtles to more unify that planting group. There were some cherries in the front, I believe, and they replaced those with star magnolia. They put a note on the plans for in front of the wall, they're going to put creeping fig at the bottom of the wall. There's a little wall along Marietta Street there, if I remember correctly. And then there was on the original plan, the shrub row stopped what we felt like was, weird, unknown reason why, and they extended that out. So that'll be, that was along the side. That was along the side of the plan over there. The shrub row stopped. And so they extended that through.
Yep, so I remember that. Okay.
They thinned out some of the plantings in the tree islands per the comments. I'm not sure what that was, but I do remember the comment about that it felt like the tree islands were overplanted.
Stuff would just some of that stuff would have just got trampled.
Yeah,
And it would compete against the tree, growth of the tree.
growth of the tree. And then there was a site plan, landscape plan tweaks that needed to come together. They had the site plan and the landscape plan had the water vaults in 2 different spots and things like that. So the plan that Mr. Christensen has up now
Yeah, it's a door coming off of Marietta Street.
has everything lined up
Yeah.
the way it's planned.
Just going back to the landscape islands, Brett, I thought you can only go like 9 parking spaces before you have to have an island, right? So if you look at the rear of the property, I'm sure that's more than 9 parking spaces along the rear there. So there should be, because they used to have an intermediate island there.
David will catch that one way or the other.
Yeah, that'll be a staff thing. They'll catch that.
Well,
too.
Same thing on the right and left. There were islands here that were removed.
That was my question, if David had reviewed this yet, for trees
Yeah, there
and
was-
power lines and trees with utilities, all that sort of thing. I think it's better for sure.
We were trying to, there's a couple of big trees we were trying to keep, and I wanted to keep my parking at a specific ratio. And David and I got together and said, with all the existing trees, he would forego one of the separation in the back to give us an extra couple of spaces.
Yeah, it looks like the islands were removed, but the trees got moved from the island into the landscaping strip. When you compare, like, there's a tree in the island that's now in the landscaping strip instead.
Potentially, yes,
Yeah.
to keep the tree count up.
Right.
Yep.
David will catch all that stuff up.
And then he updated the plant list.
Okay.
So the plant list should show everything that's current now.
Okay. Anything else? Any questions for the applicant this morning? None? Is there, is there any public comment about this application? Any public comment? No public comment, okay. All right, does somebody want to craft a motion? Please.
Sure. I will craft a motion regarding DRB 250011 Providence Partners Group landscaping, that we approve the plan as presented, but didn't quite make the package. What's the date on that drawing? Can you scroll over to it?
April something.
Dated 4/1/25, sheet L1-0, L-101. End of motion.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion by Mr. Corkle, a second by Mr. Swing. Any comments or questions about the motion? There be none, I'll call for a vote. All in favor of the motion, please raise your hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All opposed? No opposition. Motion passes 5-0. I guess it's 5-0-2 because there's people that aren't here.
Thanks, sir.
Okay, very good. Thank you
Good
for
to go.
thanks for your time this morning. Appreciate that.
Thank you.
All right.
Richard Owens, can you let them in? Thank you.
Oh, yes. Let's let Holly and Eric back into the,
Release them.
tell them we're ready for them. Okay, our next applicant this morning is 55 Roswell Street. 55 Roswell Street. Yes, you're here, okay. Come on down, please, or come on up.
Good morning.
Good morning. You'll make sure you speak into the microphone this morning.
Yes, Tony Dietz, Tag Signs. Obviously,
Okay.
it's an application for a sign.
I'll tell you what, if you'll hold off just a minute, let's get our last DRB member back up here at the dais and we can get going. Okay, there we go. Now we're ready. All right. All right, we got 55 Roswell Street.
If you can, there you go.
Easy peasy.
Welcome back.
Yeah, if you want to give that to them, that'd be great.
Or, let's see, I'll tell you what, okay. Oh, good, all right.
A little bit different than what you see on screen.
Okay, so walk us through what we're looking at on the board or we're looking at on the monitors, please.
Bottom right-hand corner, there's a space, I don't know if I can draw on here. Oh, no, I can't. There's a space next to, looks like a utility cover. I've already spoken with Brett about location and where the sign should go. That was his suggestion as to where they should put this sign up. It's not a big sign, nothing complicated. Finishes to match the building.
So from our discussion during the workshop session this morning, there's maybe some concern that you've got to get approval from Fulton County because of the location close or next to the vault that's there now. You're talking about that cover that
Correct.
you're talking about? Apparently that's a vault, an underground vault for some utilities. And I think there's a requirement of a certain standoff distance from that vault by the county.
But that's has nothing to do with us.
Oh, it doesn't?
Nope.
Okay,
That's the county's issue to handle.
okay.
Yeah, except it may affect
It
how
could
we
affect-
how we condition it in case he does run into a problem, the discussion we had about.
It could, yes, it could, but I can't hold the permit for something that the county may need to do.
Right. But we could approve those alternatives we discussed, so if he does run into that problem, he might.
If he, yes.
Might have a way around.
So alternatives, if he runs into the thing, but, yeah.
Yeah.
Yes,
How does
but we can't condition it, we can't,
Right.
Okay, well,
Yeah.
how does the county even know that they're gonna put a sign in? They don't tell the county,
I don't know.
okay?
That's not
Somebody
a
can-
part of the city's, that's not a part of the city's deal. If the landlord decides to put it in and see if the county notices, that's their thing.
Okay,
The
all
only
right,
thing that we have is from the right of way.
okay,
And it definitely meets that.
okay.
However, if they run into an issue, then yeah, we need to have a little bit of staff ability to work with them. But we can't condition anything to, you got to get this first and stuff like that.
No, we're not, I don't think we're doing that, I think we're
Yeah,
just saying
okay.
that there may be an issue, so we just strike the Fulton County off the record and,
Yep.
okay, all right, very good. Okay, so walk us through, you passed the board around, just verbally walk us through the materials and where they are on the sign, on the monument sign, please.
The base is full out masonry, brick to match the building.
Okay.
Cap. Everything else is aluminum construction.
Okay,
And
Tony, what are the 55 Roswell Street letters? What are those? Those are aluminum standoff letters?
yeah, they'll be base mounted, but yeah, they'll float.
Okay.
I have more.
Is there any potential to do tenant signage in anything other than vinyl?
well, let me ask you this question, that doesn't show it on this. We don't, on this drawing, we don't know
It
what
doesn't,
they
but it
are.
doesn't call it out at all.
Right, that's,
We would assume to do it in vinyl, Brett, just simply because
It
it's
is
gonna
in this
change.
picture.
You know, but if you came to me and said, no, we don't want it to be vinyl, we could obviously just paint it on.
So
Copy?
So instead of, could you make the whole plate removable?
Yes.
And
we are.
changeable, and
We are
then,
doing that.
and then do like applied letters to each plate, and then if a tenant changed, you just change the whole plate?
Swap out.
I think that would give us some, because the downtown code, calls it wants depth and reveal, and
If you tell me you want depth, we'll do applied letters.
we'll see what the board says here. We did have a discussion in workshop, there was a thing about, potentially some of the smaller letters. So what's your professional opinion on how small could you get a letter that would still be an applied letter, not a vinyl?
About an inch.
So I think that's really little, and that's probably not what we're talking about here, but
That's good.
Is it practical to use the aluminum for those panels instead of the,
Well, those black panels will be aluminum, and they will be raised and mounted so that they can be interchanged at, later dates, because tenant panels always change.
yeah.
So if the applied letters were maybe a half-inch,
That would be too thick.
Yeah, that's what I was
In this case, for those tenant panels, you'd probably go 1/8 to 1/4 at the most.
because of the small lettering on some of them?
Right, because then the return would be too deep.
It might even look weird if you had a 1/2 inch depth on these 1 inch letters. You know,
Yes,
you'd-
it would look terrible.
With a perspective, so.
So is that what we're saying, like the north, where it says North Atlanta Hair Restoration? We think those letters are 1 inch tall?
I don't have an actual measurement, but they're probably, yeah, so you wouldn't do a 1/2 inch return.
Yes.
You would do, a 1/8 to 1/4 at the most.
Something other than vinyl.
Correct. Probably acrylic.
Yeah.
Okay. Just a couple other questions about the sign. You've got the one color that shows rust.
Correct.
Now, that looks a little different than what's on the board that Holly, Ms. Palmer's holding up. It looks like it's a.
I don't think you can really reproduce rust
What's a cl-
digitally. If you would like, I have more samples.
So is it a painted color or is it a Corten?
It is a.
That weathers.
It is a faux Corten. It's aluminum.
It's got a noise to it.
It's aluminum.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm here to help.
So, but it won't change then?
No.
Okay, it won't rust any more than that, what it looks like? Okay, all right.
Locked in, so it doesn't change.
Got it, okay. Because I know there's materials that are made that rust over time
Correct.
and they change, they age, so, okay.
So on the side view, the elevation that faces the street, Roswell Street,
Yes, sir.
that treatment of the rust panel, is that all one panel that's coming out, or is that it going to be in pieces? Yeah,
No, it's all one piece.
it's all one
It's all
piece.
one piece and.
Honestly, that's the only elevation that bothers me just a little bit, and that there's just that one blank section. So, yeah, so maybe there's two letters that go there, say 50, or two numbers that go 55 on the front of that, or
We can do that.
something like that. How's it lit?
There's no lighting.
No lighting. Okay.
Have to put a light on top of the vault.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Is there space to put any kind of seasonal color or anything around the base?
Yes. I think
Obviously, we talked to the property owner. I'm sure they'll want to do something.
they need to. Just out of curiosity, so we've got this rust as kind of the background of the sign.
Yes, sir.
It's going to look very close to what those black sign panels are. So you don't get that, you're not going to get as much of a contrast, I think, than we're looking
It will
at.
lighten over time, and
So-
since it is
Which lightens over
the
time?
rust.
Oh, it's
It
going to
will-
lighten?
It will
I thought you
lighten
said
a
it was.
little bit. And you can, I don't know if you could, it's an applied faux finish. It has irregularities to it.
Oh, I'm
It won't, it's not, we could go in there and paint something brown to simulate it, but it won't look the same. It doesn't have the depth of color.
I think we think that it's better if there's contrast between the sign panels and the
Yes, it's
background.
much better.
And I think that one thing that's good is that the sheen there'll be a little bit of sheen on the sign panels and it'll be totally flat.
Yeah, we'll do the rust and probably a matte finish.
Yeah.
Give it kind of an older look than something new and shiny.
Okay.
I like it.
So Eric, you'd mentioned seasonal color. I think,
Or whatever.
yeah, I think
You're the
something
landscape.
evergreen shrub or something like
Yep.
that, or ground cover, whatever is better than seasonal color.
Just some kind of finish around the base.
Yes, makes sense. Agree, okay. All right.
So on the thickness of the letters we were talking about, there's only one, I guess those smaller panels are always going to be small letters, right? The only thing that's big here is foundation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, when you say thickness, you mean depth?
Depth.
The depth, okay.
The depth of the
Not
letters, yeah.
Not the actual width.
Because we're talking about maybe for this, the 1 inch, the smaller letters, a minimum an 1/8 inch, but for foundation, that could be thicker.
Yeah. I would and Brett, I don't know if this aligns with what you were sharing during the workshop, but I would recommend an eighth of an inch on most of the letters, with exception of the word foundation and the logo for North. Well, I mean, they're going to have other tenants, but
Yeah, so, and we'll dive into that a little more in the committee discussions, but there's lots of things we could do to get that depth as well. I mean, you could use an 1/8 inch metal and pin mount it a 1/2 inch off. You know, and you're going to get that. You could, in this case, say he could make that rust background full and pin mount the black to it, and then pin mount the letters, and you're really building it out. So we may not want to say the letters have to be a certain thickness, but we have to provide a minimum projection, some sort of depth perception differ. Somehow we'll try to figure out how to word that. But what we don't want to do is a flat on a flat on a flat.
yep.
Because now we look like an old sign.
No, I maybe
Yeah.
make a minimum of 1/8 inch, and we'll scale it up as.
Yeah, so we were talking earlier on, we're going to be dividing into some committees to review our guidelines. And so we used your sign as a kind of, okay, well, what can we do here? How can we tweak this? How can we make it better? So that's just what we were looking at, is how do we get depth perception without, like that, you got 1-inch letters. How do we get a depth perception out of that? So thinking ahead,
Okay.
trying to make it better.
All right. Any other questions, comments from board members this morning?
Well, so just clarifying, on the side facing the street, we're going to talk about adding maybe a 55, just to have something on that side, so it's not a big blank.
My only thought on that is if it's vertical, right, 5'5", and then
It's vertical.
matches
and then
that
you
brushed
already have
aluminum.
55 Roswell Street on both faces.
Well, it needs something in there, in my opinion.
Or else you do a black panel inset.
Yeah, even that would do it, just something
Okay.
to.
Something on the side, just
Just
to,
almost like your picture framing.
yeah, picture frame the sign to do that too. Yeah, I
That's a
like
great
that.
idea.
So it'd be sort of a black panel.
Yes. That's a little bit smaller than the,
Yeah, to give a frame.
Would you do it in tuxedo?
There you go, tuxedo.
What's the other one?
Yeah.
yeah, you do a tuxedo, you do the same. as-
Granola.
Okay. Before we craft a motion, is there any public comment about this application this morning? Any public comment?
Maybe something
Who's drawing?
Yep, just,
in black.
yep.
Something.
So did we do, are we going to do foundation plantings on that, or?
Yes.
Evergreen
I
foundation.
I think that whole area is a ground cover,
Is it? Okay.
but
But it'll be torn up for the construction of this
it
sign.
will,
it'll
but
need
so that
be
needs to
replaced.
come
Yeah.
back in, but I think the whole area, if it all matched, unless you guys want something different than what's, in that area.
Well, I think what was designed before didn't account for a monument sign at that
It did
time.
not.
So it's a different style of landscape. Maybe it needs to be a little more around the base.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
Evergreen?
Yes. I assume that area is it already irrigated? Is there already some sort of irrigation for the landscape?
I would guess, yeah.
All right. So you may just have to move a head around or something. Make sure you don't hit the lines.
And there's no lighting on this
No, sir.
sign? Okay. All right. You already did public comment?
Yes.
Okay. Mr. Chairman, regarding DRB 250018, 55 Roswell Street, motion to approve the monument sign is presented with the following conditions. Applicant will use applied letters versus vinyl with a minimum 1/8 inch thickness and scaled up for larger lettering. On the end of the monument side facing the street, applicant will add a black panel to create a picture frame effect as discussed. And applicant will add evergreen base plantings around the monument sign. And the motion?
Second.
Okay, motion by Mr. Swing, second by Mr. Rowan. Any comments, questions about the motion? There being none, I'll call for a vote. All in favor of the motion, please raise your hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. All opposed, no opposition, so motion passes 7-0. All right, thank you for your time this morning. Appreciate it. Okay, our next applicant this morning is J. Hodge Enterprises.
Sure, why not?
J. Hodge Enterprises, you're here, come on down. Thank you, Tony. Okay,
Joel, you
good
need
morning, welcome.
Good morning.
All right, if you'll make sure you speak into the microphone this morning, introduce yourself.
My name is Brandy Rott.
Brandy, all right, and tell us what talk to us about your application this morning, please.
So we are wanting to change the color of our office.
I'm trying to flip this thing over.
I think way under left there, it says modified page, see that circular arrow?
No.
Oh, that'll do it too.
There we go. So Brandy's just coming back from vacation. Shame on her.
Welcome back.
But she doesn't have a packet put together, so we're going to tag team this one.
Okay.
Okay. So here's the image. This is the structure where her, if I'm correct in remembering, a land moving excavating company,
A civil site company.
civil site company, is going to operate out of, and they want to paint the structure.
Yes.
Did you happen to bring samples? Bring the paint? Okay.
No.
So,
Well, why don't you let's look at the picture of the building. Okay, let's kind of walk us through or talk to us about what you want to do, how you want to paint this.
Okay.
Maybe
So
that's a good
the
starting.
railings color, which is like a medium soft black, would be the exterior.
The which color now?
It's that one.
So, all right, this color, or I guess we're looking at the top of a paint bucket, basically.
Yes.
All right, so you want use that color on which parts of the building?
The whole exterior except for trim.
All right, and when you say trim, define for me or help me understand what is trim on this.
The windows,
Okay,
downspouts, gutters,
yes.
fascia up here.
okay.
Just the exterior walls.
door.
Basically.
And then, so what do you want to then paint the trim color?
It would be a pure white.
What's that?
Pure white is the color.
Pure white?
Yes.
So it's, all right. The body is black, pure white is all the trim colors?
Yes.
Okay. And then how about the door? The door's going to be white too, pure white as well?
No, it's like a khaki color.
Khaki. So let's
Yes.
go up to this, okay.
Exterior doors is this one. This, it's called a,
Mega something?
You don't have the original of that?
Mega gray?
Not with me, no.
All right, so which description sounds like khaki?
hang on one second.
Looks like it's across from Mega Grage. But that doesn't sound like khaki.
There's a Killam beige? No? I think these are actual colors. All right, Brett's going to go to our Sherwin-Williams website, and let's see what we can pull up here.
Do we have the sample
And make it
Mega Grage.
thing?
No, we don't.
I mean, we don't have the physical
Well-
fan, whatever you call it?
Oh,
It's in the other drawer behind the conference room, I thought, underneath the
Oh,
copy
yeah,
machine.
we see it.
Or it used to be.
No, they change colors so often.
I know, right? Probably same color, just different name.
Yeah,
I mean, how many colors can you come up with?
I know.
Well, I'm glad to see, there was some discussion about the couch building that's kind of across the street or somewhere on the other side of the street.
Yes.
And that's essentially kind of an all-black building with no trim colors on it. So I'm glad to see some of the trim being
Yes.
a different color than just black. It gives it some character.
would seem like there could be even a little more done, like that porch, for example, if that porch was a different shade. Something
You having
rather than
success?
the whole building being black.
I feel like the stark white might be too much contrast.
That's a
agree.
lot of contrast.
I agree.
Like, I almost think they need to meet something in the middle.
Maybe it's-
Otherwise, it's gonna,
Maybe the trim is beige then.
Show
But beige and black, does that go?
That's all trim, that's the Mega Grige?
Mega Grage. Grage.
Grigio.
That's more.
Grigio.
that's the
I
door
tell you.
color.
Grage.
Grigio is Italian for grass, so Grige.
Okay, Grage.
So there is no beige then. There is no,
Grage.
Grayish, not khaki at all.
Isn't he big?
Or something rather than white.
Okay.
Just do the whole thing. The trim.
that would. Yeah,
Can you go back to
I
the
see that then.
house, please?
Here.
The
I'll-
question is can you paint the aluminum windows?
Yes, sir.
I'm sorry, I should, Brett's got it. It looks, it's,
Kind of yellowy, yeah.
yeah, I took a picture, this is from yesterday. So it's, yeah, it's kind of a yellowish, more yellow looking house now, or building.
What is the,
Sorry, I should have sent this to everybody, but
so the porch is open on both sides?
Yes.
Those are columns?
yes. I'm surprised there's not a railing there on that porch.
Oh, yeah, and there's supposed to be a handrail on it, on the steps?
You know, it sure would look nice if there's some landscaping at the base, but
We do plan to do landscaping.
you plan to do it?
Yes.
All right, good. You're moving in the right direction. I mean, this building needs help,
It does.
like more than paint help.
I agree.
Aw, bless its heart.
We're trying, we're
It's
getting there. One step at a time, but, okay.
I think I heard something about not doing white trim.
Yeah.
Yes.
I think I like that color, I think would look,
Do the whole,
The
do all
white
the
trim.
do
trim.
That's
all
what
the
I was-
trim door, all that in that.
And the downspouts and gutters.
The
too.
question is can you paint it looks like there's aluminum window frames. Can those will those take paint to them?
They look like they're.
Because they're already white.
There
'Cause
are-
they're already
well,
white.
the ones on the right-hand side in what used to be probably a porch are actually like an anodized bronze.
Yeah.
Anodized aluminum bronze color. That's still pretty dark. Okay,
I don't know why you couldn't, I mean, you can paint downspouts and gutters, and those are
Yeah, you can paint it.
finished aluminum, right?
right.
So-
It will, painting the downspouts, other than white, will give it a nice complement
Yeah.
to the whole composition.
I think it definitely needs to be darker than white. If you're really doing that really dark color for the building, something like the grease, the mega grease.
Okay, any other comments or, well, as far as the applicant goes, if it's the base of the building is black with the gray being the trim colors, do you, as the representative of the applicant today, do you have any objections to that?
No. We just want something better than what it is.
I think we're all in the
You
same,
don't like the pink?
we're all rowing in the same direction here, so.
Peach,
okay.
whatever color it is.
Okay, any other comments from from board members this morning?
We could leave the gutters white and give the downspout a color along with everything else.
I think they all need to be the same color.
Yeah, I do too. I think
But also the roof under the entryway there,
Like the
lighter, the trim color.
The soffit, you mean?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
basically everything that's white in this picture goes mega grayish, right? Including.
Okay. All right, before there are any motions made, is there any public comment about this application this morning? Any public comment? Okay, public comment.
All right, Mr. Chairman, regarding DRB 250019, J. Hodge Enterprises, 410 North Main Street. Motion to approve the building paint color as submitted, with the condition that the trim, gutters, downspouts that were proposed to be painted in white will be mega grayish, the same color that was proposed for the door. And for clarity, that means everything that is currently white on the building becomes the mega grayish color. End of motion.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Mr. Swing, a second by Ms. Sprayberry.
Did you say that the ceiling for the porch is currently white?
It is.
Okay, so you want that, the gray, okay, thank you.
Yeah, that's kind of why I said it that way, because I think there's a lot of sort of white trim and things around the building, and just to make sure it's clear that if it's white, it goes mega grayish.
Does there have to be a railing for those steps, Brett?
30 inches is what the code is, so
It's probably just.
it's
under-
probably, yeah, very,
2, 3,
very close.
About 8-inch risers, generally.
7 inch, should be 7 inch.
7 inch, so
1,
2,
2, 3. There's like 4.
They're probably just under.
I think there's 3,
Yeah.
and it looks like the first one is less than 7, so
The first one's less than 7, then 2 7s, and the top one's less than 7.
Yeah.
the fire marshal will catch that, but I would say if it gets anything, just needs like a black metal rail, because it's so small that you
That's
don't
what I
really
was
want to
going- Yeah, with that question.
bulky something up there.
Do you anticipate to have visitors coming in or clients coming in?
Very rarely.
Okay. I mean, and so I would assume the employees park in the back and enter in the back of the
It's only
building.
myself.
Oh,
basically.
the employee.
Yes, I'm the one and all.
Okay,
All the other like all of our workers are on-site workers, so they don't come to the office. They go straight to the job site.
okay. Very good. Just out of curiosity, where do you store all your equipment then that you use on?
It's on the job sites.
And it just goes from one job site to the next, so there's
Yes.
you're not bringing all this equipment back and?
No,
Okay. Okay. very
There
good.
wouldn't be room for it.
no.
Lots of room in the front yard.
Okay. All right. Any other comments or questions about the motion on the floor? There being none, I'll call for a vote. All in favor of the motion, please raise your hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. All opposed, no opposition. Motion passes 7-0. All right, Brandy, thank you very much
Thank
for your
you.
time this morning. Okay. All right. Our next applicant this morning is Little Alley Steak Salt Factory. Come on up or come on down, please.
Hi, good morning.
Good morning.
I'm going to multitask here, so.
That's all right, take your time.
Robert Zappulla with AKA Studio. We're the architects for this project. Hisham Nazari is with us, he's the owner. Sid Howman, he's our civil engineer, landscape, everything site, and David Pachikian's with our office. I'm going to get my laptop together. All right. So, has anybody been to a Little Alley Steakhouse before?
A long time ago.
Would you humor me and let me show you the interior of one first before we dig into the?
That's fine, that'll be
You
good.
might need to take a 5-minute break.
I'll tell you what, I was just going to suggest that while you get set up, let's take a 5-minute recess. Allow you to get set up, some of our other members to go fill their coffee cups up and make a pit stop as well. So let's take a 5-minute recess right now.
Right, thank you for your help.
Okay. our next applicant. So let's start from the top here. So we have Little Alley Steak Salt Factory. Good
Yes,
morning,
hi.
welcome. All right.
Good morning.
Looks like you're all set up for us then.
Again.
Good. Okay.
Robert Zapula, AKA Studio, the architects. So the property is in the downtown overlay district. It's a little under, it's about 0.69 acres, right? We're doing a 1,900 square foot approximate dining room and back of house addition to an existing Salt. The owner of Salt is the same owner as Little Alley Steak. So the plan is to remodel it, expand the dining room, expand the kitchen, and kind of redo the interior and make a Salt into a Little Alley. That's the challenge. So it's along Main Street where Marietta Street is on the corner, Publix is behind it, there's Norcross Street, which kind of separates this property from the parking lot and Publix. There is some site work that's being done, and Sid could talk to that. Architecturally, the majority of it's the additions to look like the existing building. So you're not seeing anything on my screen, I apologize. I wanted to start off with the interior because I didn't know if anyone had ever been to a Salt, but basically this is their Buckhead location. It's much larger. Their first one was in Roswell, which is a lot like this project where it was a small inline restaurant. How many seats? 100 seats or something? It's pretty small. If you had been to that one, that happened before this Buckhead version, which is a larger, more grandiose one where they developed a lot of the details on the interior, so that's really important to them. So that's the door when you walk in, hostess, looking back into the restaurant, bar on the left. You notice there's a lot of decor. They spend a lot of time and money decorating it and creating an atmosphere. So this is the same sort of atmosphere we're going to have on the inside. And as you go through the restaurant, you get a feel for like they're using up every inch of this interior. There's a lot to see. There's a lot going on. A lot of decoration, highly detailed. And as we go through this space, this is about 7,000 square feet, right? More than double the size of this Alpharetta location. And you go towards the back, there's a second floor, which we don't have. Really nice wine cellar. And basically, you start to get to the back of house, and that's the kitchen beyond that wall. So just wanted to show it to you if you weren't familiar with what their motif is and what they do there. So get out of that. When we presented, we took a stab at what we thought everyone would like. We had some comments. We had some workshop back and forth trying to figure out how to dial that in. And should I just jump into what we're at? Or
Yeah, why don't you start with a site plan just to get us kind of oriented and where the addition is and so forth. So.
So this is the architectural site plan. Sid will have more detailed information in his drawings. So Main Street's here on the left. Taco Bell is planned south. Marietta Street, that's the cut through. Oops. Sorry, folks. User error. I'm trying to, my Zoom's not working. Try one more time. There we go. All right, so that's the cut through. So we have a parking lot, kind of like a dog-leg L shape. Main entrance is here where the 2.5 hours are. The main building is this grayed out version. The addition is this wrapping sort of L shape around it. There's an existing covered patio for part of it and a bocce ball court and some parking that we're gonna have to rework. The back of house is over here on the left, and that's gonna remain back of house, and we're encapsulating an old walk-in cooler that's there. That'll become part of the building on the inside. And to this plan south, we're proposing an exit onto Norcross to help the flow through the site. So that's the site in general. Dumpsters back here. It's mostly screened, and Sue could talk to that. As far as the tree count and things, we have one tree right here that's in the middle of our Norcross access that we need to negotiate through. And we're handling that with adding other trees and things. The plan is that we'll have like a valley area over here where people come park their cars. We have more parking that's required for this area, even after the work we're doing. And that's the site plan.
Okay, thank you for that.
I'm assuming restaurant will be shut down. It's operable right now, right? So it'll be shut down to do all this?
Yes. Correct?
And there was talk during, at least during the workshop session, that there, you may be trying to link the sidewalk along Main Street.
I have a
Main
drawing of
Street.
that.
Okay,
Yeah. So, want to see that?
okay.
So, we have a lot of files, so I went through numbering everything, so I figured out which one's where.
Want to stay with the site plan?
Did you have any questions?
Changes, sidewalk.
Lighting, just the stuff that goes with the site plan.
Okay, we can,
Before moving to, yeah, okay.
So it's diagrammatic. I have some photos I could show you more information, or if you use Google, you can kind of look and see the sidewalk. The best place, in our opinion, to get from the sidewalk off of Main Street to the restaurant is utilizing this planting bed island and then that parking spot, and then have a cross walkway straight into the front of the building. We'd have to modify the patio access a little bit because there's like a railing and some seating, then move some seats around.
So to do that, so people don't park there, and they will,
We're gonna stripe it.
would it, okay, I'm just wondering if it would be better to extend that island so that you come through the island so people don't park there. Because there's always gonna be somebody that's gonna stop, I'm just picking something up to go, or I'm doing something to go, or there's always gonna be something. Anyway, just a thought.
I agree.
Is
with
there
that.
is there a tree in the island? I thought there was a tree in that island.
There should be, but
Yeah,
even
wouldn't
so,
that
it
be
doesn't
more-
matter. I mean, you're just extending the island and hardscaping it. Won't affect the trees.
So is there anything
Well,
you
no,
want
would
to
you-
talk about that? Is there any issues that you know of?
Wouldn't a
why
tree be on
that would?
The plan now is they'll have to put a tree there, so.
I'm Sid Howell with Paulson Mitchell Engineers. I'm a landscape architect. I'm Sid Howman with Paulson Mitchell. I'm a landscape architect and the designer for the landscape on this site. The crosswalk we're proposing would have to tie into the existing bricked sidewalk, and it has a flare on it now. So until we understand how that flare is going to work and how much we'd have to take out, we don't know what that final spot elevations are going to be for that connection. So we can, that's why we proposed it striped now, because we don't know exactly how we're going to tie into those. We don't have spots for that. This is a new concept for getting into the building from the sidewalk. It seems to be the appropriate location. If we have to put that island in there to make it work, then we'll go ahead and do that. Currently, we're not proposing it to be an ADA accessible route because of that connection flare to the existing sidewalk. If it happens to work out and we have to put an ADA in there, that would, where we'd have to modify that existing sidewalk, then we'll look at that.
I might just add one thing
Yeah.
to think about is, you know, I'm really excited about Little Alley coming to downtown Alpharetta. And one thing about SALT is it's a little bit separated from a pedestrian perspective from like the core downtown areas. If you added, you know, a paved connection, I think it would help a lot with the pedestrian connection to Little Alley. There's a lot of people walking from downtown, and I think it would help business, I think, and make it stand out a lot more. Versus a striped, you know, more institutional Publix parking lot type of pedestrian connection.
Paved as in decorative paving or as?
Like what Mr. McCorkle was saying about, sorry about that, about increasing the size of the bulb out and doing pavers that extend through to the entrance.
Okay, we'll look at that, yeah.
Yeah, it would seem like it would fit more. I mean, it's you have sort of more upscale steakhouse kind of. It would, I think the brick walkway would fit better with, I think, the level of the
We're gonna do it.
establishment, right?
Thumbs up. He said, yeah, let's do it, so we'll figure out how to make it work. That's what we'll do in the back office. We'll plan it now. And
Like they always say, when you get the sale, stop talking.
There you go.
Who's responsible for the existing brick sidewalk right now? Is that
Pete Sisevich.
Okay, so there'll be some.
Pete loves his brick sidewalks.
I'm sure he does.
Loves it.
I know. Okay, there'll be some discussions between Pete and then, okay.
How to connect that.
Well, it's good that there's some sort of linkage, some sort of walkability between the city sidewalk and your facility, so that's good to hear, okay. Okay.
Let's get out of the weeds now, I guess, and go back to.
Go back to 30,000 feet.
Yeah.
All right, is there anything else?
Well, while we're on that, so you can see we're gonna have to have entrance here. The Google was pulled down, but there's some work we need to do to the facade to change it. We have to remove railings and seatings. It's not major. We can move it. Just it'll change what we're doing architecturally a little bit.
Gotcha.
And so that's the intent. This will be your front door then, essentially.
The front door is right in front of that. It used to be
Right.
to the side.
Right.
So it will line up perfectly in front. We're gonna have to adjust the railing and things around the patio. that are
Because
just-
right now, yeah, so you're gonna block
this-
off the entrance on the side right now, make everybody come straight through the kind of
Yes,
the
sir.
center. All right, got it.
I have a photo. So then basically, these plantings would need to get relocated or removed, and then the railing and the planter boxes and things have to get reworked to then give you direct access to this door that's there.
Tough connection.
Okay?
Not the ideal connection to the site, but I get it because of grades and.
Now, this works. It's
I get it.
different, but it works. So I'm not sure how to proceed to the next bullet point.
Anything else, let's see, site-wise, anything else that we need to look at or be aware of, or that's changing?
We submitted updates to our landscaping, because there's curb cuts and parking and things that are changing. I don't know how.
So just out of curiosity now, right now, you can, with a vehicle, a car, you can drive all the way around the building.
You can, this back of house area though is mostly for deliveries and things, and it's kind of tight. So the intent though is by having more of a U-shaped pattern in and out, that's why we're looking at adding the additional
So
curb cut over
that's,
here.
that lets you add out there, okay.
It
Got
just
it.
makes it function better.
Okay.
It's less dangerous. Yeah.
Dumpster location is there. It's already has a current enclosure.
It has a current enclosure. I believe it's painted brick to match the building. And the gates look like they were in good condition. I don't remember. Yeah, they're closing gates and things.
Okay.
And any additions of, I see existing pole lights. Any additions, subtractions, changes? I saw
Architectural-
photometrics in there.
Yeah,
Not-
so-
Not architectural lighting, but site lighting. Trying to stick with
Are
just
we
site
adding new
only.
pole lights? I think we had plenty coverage, so.
Okay.
Just gooseneck lights on the building to match existing.
So no change to the site lighting then?
No.
Okay.
So then we don't really need to approve photometrics or site lighting because it's not changing.
Yep.
Doesn't sound like it.
Agreed.
Scratch, check.
Okay, all right, then let's move on to, well, while we're on the site, let's go to landscaping now, if we can, please. Talk about what we're doing around the outside of the building.
All right, so this is what we submitted. Do you want to have the other one, the updated one?
Oh, we can keep the original.
Keep the original.
Hold mine up too.
So it's control to wheel in and out, to zoom in and out, and then push the button to move around. It's just really awesome. Want me to try?
Isn't it? Or is it?
What happened? What'd you do?
No, where's the landscape plan?
I always need someone to operate things for me, and present, always.
What's this?
There it is.
Yeah, so the red marks that you see were things we talked about for access, and those were just
Right, so the design for this landscape plan meets the minimum requirements for the perimeter landscaping, parking screening. We had an initial pre-app meeting with staff, and the arborist tried to promote that we provide as many new trees as possible on the site. It's a very tight site, it's constrained, planting areas are constrained. There are several existing trees on site in the parking lot, which would have to be removed, but they are in very poor condition, and they are Bradford pears anyways, so they're coming out. We're making replacements with a few overstory trees, some understory trees in those areas. So the overstory trees are in the existing locations where these large Bradford pears were.
Sid, could you march us through what types of trees those are?
So those are winged elms.
Can you zoom in on that area, for instance, just to help us a little bit? Maybe, there we go. Yeah, just start with one area and kind of walk us around, if you will. Thank you.
So this is winged elm in this area. These are the evergreens, Ilex attenuata, the Fosters. These row on the east side are Tupelo. These are ornamental plum. And on the south side, we have ornamental plum and then another winged elm. And that's it for the trees. And there's an existing tree here where we don't plan on impacting it, with the exception of a few plants to go in there. The screening for the dumpster would start here with two Brighton type cherry laurels.
What's spacing on those?
I think I put them at 10, 8 to 10.
So could that be tightened up just to?
3 of them?
Yeah. Yeah, I think you just got to tighten that up a little bit.
Yeah.
And there's an existing little walkway that runs there.
Right.
That's what that is?
That's what's pushing us back.
Okay, gotcha.
These, with the shrubs right there.
There's an existing fence along the Norcross Street back of house side, which has wood panels between existing brick columns. Our plan is to remove those wood panels and replace that with intermittent trees, as you see here.
Leaving the columns?
Pardon? Leaving the columns, with the exception of what we have to remove for this curb cut.
Okay.
But the brick columns are planned to stay, and then we would provide the required perimeter planting. And in this case, we have Burford holly, and then we have some abelia. So it's just a change in texture.
There's that island off of the building there where it says existing screening shrubs to remain.
Here?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that led, my question regarding the restaurant, if it's closing for all this, and so it is, only thing I would say for that is in our motion that we, anything that's damaged or destroyed that's in there you intend to keep, that it needs to be replaced. Believe it or not, contractors aren't especially cognizant of walking through, placing things on, and all that sort of stuff. And looks like this would be a pretty major undertaking as this site gets done, so you may want to plan on re-landscaping that.
Okay. Yeah. But we can add a note for that without designing it at this point?
I think so. Brett?
Yep.
Staff's good with that?
Yep.
Okay.
Who owns that fence back there? Is that the landlord, or is that, it's in bad, I mean, unless something's been done to it recently, I think it's in pretty bad shape.
I think it's probably the landlord, but we can get that figured out and addressed.
It's on site. It's not in the right of way.
Yeah, because I mean, it looks like the wood is in pretty bad shape. It could use a power washing.
He's
Well, the
removing
wood's
the
coming down.
Oh, the wood's
wood
coming
out of it.
down, so
Wood's
you're
coming
just-
down.
so you're just leaving the columns.
Yeah, so we just have
So I think if the columns were, pressure washed, then it would look fine.
it'll just be a pattern moving across that.
I got you, okay.
And is the asphalt getting topped and painted, repainted, or is that to remain in existing conditions?
At this point, we haven't considered resurfacing it.
Okay.
Now, obviously, there'll be patches that we'll have to get addressed. And
Almost looks like
restriping.
it's concrete back there. It is.
Back there, yeah. it
Yes,
is.
I can see it in my photo,
Okay.
but, I mean, okay, all right. Where else?
Yeah, so along the north side, along Marietta Street, we would like to have put trees in there, but we are constrained by the underground utilities running across here. So that's problematic. So what we tried to do is, you have to have 2 rows of perimeter screening anyways. So we believe that's going to be enough with some change in texture and color with the junipers, breaking that hedge line up.
What are the materials are junipers and what else, Sid?
This is Burford holly, and these are skyrockets.
Okay.
So you get some vertical and change the texture out of that.
I'm assuming that there's, the site has irrigation, correct?
The site is not irrigated,
It's not.
no. So, yeah, obviously we'll have to get irrigated to
Okay.
help these plants out.
Yes.
The trees will have to get either irrigated or bags
Yeah.
anyway.
Yep.
And out to Main Street.
Yeah. So, on this plan, it shows some possible routes to the building, which we did not, they did not work out. So this route here that you saw earlier would be the pedestrian route off the sidewalk into the building. And then the facades of the building are addressed with lower plantings. We're not trying to hide the building, obviously. So we have a lot of ornamental grass. We have some lower spirea. And then we have a few junipers and hollies on the back of the house that will break up that larger wall without hiding the wall. Like I said, it's the back of house, but that's a new facade going up, and it's going to be nice. It's
On the Marietta Street side there, can you just walk us through the plant materials up against the building, please? Just to help me out.
okay. Well, up against the building, we're looking at a few locations with fig, creeping fig, which the intent is obviously to climb the wall and fill it up a little bit.
Okay.
Other than that, we have some juniper and spirea, and then,
So it looks like you're trying to mimic, there's kind of bays along the building there.
there are bays
Or
and,
I call them bays, or,
right,
and
right, and there are on their, I guess you might call them pilasters.
Yes.
But we're not trying to, add any more vertical elements other than the building itself. So most of the shrub is low.
Okay.
There are a few locations where we have heavy metal grass, which can get about this tall, but it's a nice change in texture and grayish colors.
All right.
And along the front, this is all existing over here, these beds along the front of this patio. That's a covered patio with a railing on it. Everything's low, ornamental grass and the ground covered type spirea. So the intent there is to add some interest, but not overwhelm it with something that needs to get cut. The only hedge we have on this entire site pretty much is the north end. And then underneath some of these trees and at the northwest corner, encore azaleas for evergreen and seasonal color 2-3 times a year.
You're confident with the plantings on the north side of the building that the sunlight requirements will be satisfied?
Yeah.
Define north, Marietta Street, is that what
Where we're looking at right now,
Okay.
north side of the building. And then, can you walk me through, or us through, just the planting along Main Street? I know there's not a whole lot of width there.
Along Main?
Yeah.
So the problem with planting along the Main Street, I'll just start off with that, is we have a sidewalk and we have a retaining wall, and then we have 17 inches of planter, and then we have the curb, the parking lot. So the problem with planting there is you're gonna have cars going over the existing planting bed to the retaining wall. Now, if we had more room, we could put a hedge up, we could do the proper screening as required. There's just no room for that. So at this point, we are just planning a hypericum. Oh, there it is, yeah. So there's some liripe on there right now. There's not much room, they look pretty poor. So we're proposing St. John's wort just along there, just to fill it in. Small plants, obviously have to get irrigated.
Jen, what do you
and
think?
We'll fill in.
I mean, that's a very difficult spot. And you will have some overhang potentially from the
Oh, for
cars.
sure.
Yeah, so we'd probably want to keep it.
Is St. John's Wort,
No.
I'm not super familiar with St. John's Wort. I think it's bulletproof
It
enough
can be
or hardy enough?
shrubby or, yeah, like a ground cover. So it'll fill in nicely.
Okay.
It should probably be pretty hardy right there.
You've
That's
got a
tough
lot of
spot.
that.
We prefer to mulch it.
I think it'll end up getting mulched.
Can we mulch it? Can we make that change? I prefer that. You can't see it from the street anyways.
But from the pedestrian view, I think you would, and internally to the site, I think it would be nicer to try for a ground cover there, if we could get it.
And if you've got some other favorites, you've got a lot of the St. John's wort elsewhere. It works well to create a nice carpet around the building, the way you've done it. But if you wanted to introduce another ground cover here, you could.
At the end of the day, when there's cars there, I mean, nobody's gonna see it that much anyway, so I don't know how much time you spend. That photo helps a lot to understand the true conditions of it all.
Yeah.
From the right of way, from the street, you don't even see that spot.
And you mentioned the mulching that. If you contain the mulch between the curb and the wall, then I don't see any reason not to just use the mulch.
Right. If we use mulch, we'd have to excavate it a little bit. That's no big deal.
That's a tough spot.
Yeah. So this island here, we can't put a tree in here, so because we have existing utilities running through here with the existing water line also, and there's some water vaults. So it's just going to be shrubbed with skyrocket, juniper, and
There is overhead power there?
Pardon?
I've never noticed, there is overhead power too, on Main Street.
Yeah.
Great. Okay, yeah, you're,
So, yeah, it's a tough site. You know, with this building expansion, I think we've condensed as much planting as we could to make this look upgraded for the downtown.
They do not have overhead power on the Marietta Street side, but on Highway 9, it runs right above that spot where I was just showing you.
I'm always surprised where power still exists on the main streets in Alpharetta.
I know.
Okay,
Could we look at that island? Where is that signage?
where the
Yeah, on the
monument sign
corner
is.
here. So that's existing.
Yeah, there's an existing sign there on that side, and there's an existing sign over here on the east side.
Are you changing the landscaping around those signs, or you're leaving that
Yes,
as
we're
is?
changing it. It's a
Changing it to the new?
It's a tear out for the landscape and a redo.
Okay,
Well, with the exception of the east side. It's just where the tree's going and the existing ground cover. The existing shrubs that are on each side of the existing sign are to remain. They are hollies. I think they're Burefords or needlepoints.
okay, any other landscaping questions at this point? Okay. Let's jump into the exterior elevations and materials, please.
Do you need to see any more existing photographs, or you just want to jump right into the proposed?
No, just, why don't you just jump right into it and walk us around the building?
This is a 3D rendering of what the front of the building and the addition on the left would look like. This is the original submittal. We have made some changes where this new window that we're adding would be taller. And along the side where you mentioned the bays before, the pilasters, we reduced it by 1 bay, and we added some other architectural features on the side. Some of the comments we had were regarding, these are just large panes of glass. That's the existing restaurant. We're going to add simulated divided light dividers, so it appears to be more traditional. And that's the existing porch patio cover. That's going to remain. We're going to paint the building. We're going to paint everything that you see to look like the existing building. That was the intent, right? So everything to the right of this pilaster, or the column where this window is existing. Everything to the left is what is proposed. So you want to jump to the proposed elevations that we've updated?
Yes, let's do that. Mhm. And then just kind of describe to us each of where the materials are and the colors and so forth on each.
I have small samples. It didn't seem like we needed a big board for it. So we made some swatches for you. All right. So, if I may. 3 basic colors.
strike
Yes,
one end or the other, be perfect, thank you.
And as you're talking, you need to talk into the microphone, so.
And these are some Sherwin-Williams samples of the paint colors on the proposed to match the existing. So the samples I just passed along to you are these 3 paint colors: Garrett Gray, which is the brown color, Natural Choice, which is the light beige color, and a bluish gray color is called Web Gray, which is the current metal for the patio. The wood siding that's existing is going to be repainted, and the new wood siding is going to be painted to match, and that's the Garrett Gray color that we're passing around. And the existing brick is going to be painted the Natural Choice, that's what's existing, and we're going to continue to do the same thing. Architecturally, at the front of the building, We talked about getting rid of, oops, that's way too big. I work on a different computer in the office, I apologize. All right. So we're getting rid of this. And that would be the entrance with the crosswalk that we talked about from Main Street. And so basically this would kind of go away. And you can see the entrance is right there in front of you, so it kind of works. Everything over here on the screen right now is existing, except for those simulated divided light we're going to add on. The addition on the left basically is there to complement and match the existing. The window here is taller than we gave you originally, but it does have the wood siding, which is the motif on the building. We have brick detailing. We have these rectangle pieces with some corbels on the corners. The existing building has a stucco crown on portions of it. We had, I think, referred to it maybe as ephes. We're changing that now, where we're going to do a traditional cap to match basically the center tower that exists. So the brick would go straight up to the cap, and the cap will be painted to match. And that's what we're showing on this updated rendering. Gooseneck lights to match, they're painted black. And that's the front of the building going to the Marietta Street on the side. Is this elevation? Starting at the front. We added a much heavier pilaster to bookend this side of the elevation that faces Marietta Street. So you have this much larger brick area with some brick detailing. We removed one bay, so it kind of reduced the clutterness of what was happening. We added some feature shutter style architectural elements to help break it up as well. And then the back of the building on the left, which is where the back of house is.
I certainly like this better than the first version.
I really like it.
Agreed.
It's got some more character to it.
And landscape guy wants to know where the vines are now.
Where the what is?
Where the, yes.
Where the vines are, because
Where's
you
the
had
creeping
vines scheduled to go on there.
I think the brick area is. I know he
Creeping
wants that
fig.
look.
Because I think we get rid of the creeping fig now.
Sorry?
I think we get rid of the creeping fig.
Yes.
Creeping fig.
Or maybe there's still some sort of base.
You'll never control it. That's the thing. I mean, if there's a nice space for it to stay within, sure, but.
Well, I just like to have some base planting. That feels like that would help it.
You got base planted. I'm saying get rid of the fig.
The fig could work on either end instead of along the length.
So what would you put in there? What base planting would you put in there?
They have base planting in there.
I
We'll
thought it
just
was
remove
the
that
fig.
from it.
Just get rid of the fig.
But then there's
Everywhere?
nothing left.
There is.
No, there's junipers and there's.
Yeah, other planting there.
I thought there was, okay. Well,
Just on the back or everywhere? No more creeping fig?
I think you only had it on the back.
It was that side over here.
all
Come on,
right.
architects, pay attention.
I'm paying attention.
This is the side, this is not the back.
Well, this is the Marietta Street side. we're
Right.
looking
Right.
at. Right.
This is the side that he was gonna come in with the change, and that's the change.
This is the change.
That's the side where Sid wanted to put the fig because of the blankness of it.
I think the elevation looks great now. I really like it. The only thing that I would, that I would recommend is, and this is more of just a preference thing. I don't think it's part of a motion, but, having that pre-finished metal cap on there versus the depth and height of the cornice that I think you showed a minute ago. I think the cornice profile, you have this beautiful facade. And then that kind of metal cap, I think it kind of takes away a little bit.
I didn't see, and we looked, is stucco just a no-no? Because the existing.
It's a no-no when you have it as a wall material. I mean, the whole wall material. I don't see that it's a no-no for a cap.
Can we go back to the stucco to match the building for the cap?
That's
only?
what
I would
That's
recommend
what I was
that.
going
So
to
it's
say.
a cornice, a true cornice.
It's got more depth to it, and it caps off the building really nicely.
It's got like 3 steps in it, 3,
It's like an OG profile.
yeah, exactly.
I would just
So
do it to match the existing.
That's what I would do.
Corners.
Okay.
Tell me about going back to the left and the right-hand bays on either end of the new, on Marriott Street. Yeah.
The end pilasters with the brick
Yes, so
detail?
now, you've got the coining on the corners there, the brick coining.
Sure.
Does that bay then stick out a little bit? Is it in the different plane that the rest of the building is in to get the?
Yeah, so that it acts as a pilaster. There were pilasters before, which now they're just wider pilasters. And the pilasters stuck out from what was behind it. So.
Okay. I'm just making sure that the
4-inch.
coining turns then.
The coining turns, without redesigning the whole building and making something brand new.
Does everybody know
Creates a
what the-
condition here at the
Does
front.
everybody know what the coining is? It's
Yeah.
those,
It's the 1-inch brick that kind of offsets. It's like a header, but it's stacked, and it's at the corners, right? And so,
because that's a feature on the existing building that
Right
you have
here,
now
yep.
that you're carrying over to the,
we're carrying it over. So that's the front, and then the side that we're talking about is this one here.
yeah, that's got a much better architectural character to that side than what was in our package.
I like it.
Okay, all right, walk us around, let's go back to the backs, I'll say the
This is
backs.
the next elevation as you walk around the building. This faces the Publix parking lot. Well, technically Norcross Street, on the other side is Publix. So if you park your car in Publix, you'll see this, but you're kind of a little bit lower, so you kind of see just the bottom part. And this is where we're leaving those columns for the old fence that's there. The wood fence is being removed, columns are remaining. We're filling them with shrubbery and bushes and plantings.
Okay. And you said there was a walk-in cooler, or there's a walk-in freezer cooler back there somewhere?
Used to be.
Used to be, okay.
So I believe it's in this area here. Yeah, make that yellow. So that used to be a cooler.
Okay.
Not quite that large, but, and so by us wrapping the back corner, we're changing things on the inside. There's an existing cooler to the left that's remaining though, which is this small guy right here. And that door that you see to the right of that small cooler is their back of house entrance for deliveries and things.
And that's staying there.
That's staying, yeah. So existing to remain to the left of this line and a new building to the right.
Okay.
Are there some, I think on one of the elevations in the package, there were some meters shown on this elevation? Like some, like a gas meter and?
The gas, we're relocating the gas meter.
Yeah, on one of your elevations, you showed it right there in that first bay.
I just asked because you've got this great articulation. And it would be really, it might be hard to achieve that if.
Let's go back and look.
That-
Yeah. So we'll take that. Good eye. We weren't trying to hide it. We just did this last minute, so I apologize. All right, so if I could do that here-ish, that's kind of this piece, which then we're going to need to finagle some things, but we'll figure out how to make this.
elevation is that on?
East
East.
East rear.
faces Publix.
And there was discussion, I know you've got an existing roof ladder there now, but it looks like it, I'm looking at my photo, it looks like it comes off the top of the cooler or something.
Yes, it is a little odd.
Looks like you have to get a ladder to step on top of the cooler to get to the roof ladder.
Yeah, we're putting it on the building now, and
Just, how can we make that disappear?
we do not have, our parapet, our ceiling's much taller in the dining room than it is now, and we're trying not to have the height of our building exceed the height of the existing building, right? So we're pretty close to matching it, and you can see over from here on the side that it's almost dead on even when we put the corners back on it. We probably would have some code issues if you try to put a internal Bilco up, which then requires railings. It's a whole nother thing, or raising the parapet. So I don't think that's really a great solution. We could maybe return it to this side where the pilaster is and put it near the door if it fits. But is it the fact that it's an external ladder versus a hidden internal one is the issue? No matter where it is, on either of those three elevations, it becomes a trouble.
We struggle with that on some of the buildings that we call 360, where all four sides are exposed to public view, so to speak, so.
It wasn't part of our analysis, and I'm not really sure what other options we have interior-wise to make it fit. This is one of the smallest kitchens I've ever seen, and I've been doing this for 25 years.
It's going to be a very efficient kitchen.
It's going to be nice that we're doing the addition, but with that, because of the restaurant style, it required more area, so it's probably going to still be pretty cramped. I'm not sure where we. Yeah.
They'll be preparing meals at your table.
Well, that'd be fun.
Yeah, we can't do the addition because you don't have the room for the 40-inch, 42-inch wall protection.
I think if we can't hide it, let's put it where it's the best and maybe paint it wall color instead of black.
Yeah, we can do that. Okay.
Okay.
All right.
So.
And then any new like HVAC equipment or anything that's, where are you?
That we can hide. The existing roof has a 60-inch parapet.
How tall?
60-inch.
60 inches?
About
5 feet?
Yeah.
Wow.
And the existing units there are very large. They're like 15, 20-ton units. They're like 5 feet. Ours, what we're adding are small residential scale ones. So they're like no more than 3 or 4 feet. They would be fully below the existing parapet because we're putting those units on the existing roof. So there's no chance of seeing those unless you're like up in a building or helicopter looking down into it.
Okay, just want to be sure we don't see them.
No, I have photographs I could show you. We just, the other day, walked up Main Street, looked back at the building, we looked at Publix, we looked from high and low, and you can't see the existing ones.
Okay.
Ours are much smaller. They'll be next to it on the existing roof.
Okay, how about the kitchen exhaust hoods or anything? Are there?
Those are existing to remain, right?
All right, so you're not
You can't see
adding
them
any?
either.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, and you're not putting any kind of satellite dishes or anything of? Okay.
We're making it better.
Some of those unsightly things.
No satellite.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. Anything else on the, so going back to the existing building then, you're going to paint the existing building the same colors that you just showed us?
Yes.
I mean, that's, okay. So that everything is consistent in color?
Look like it's always been there. That's the plan.
Okay. All right. All right. Are there any other questions or comments for the applicant from board members?
What color is the existing canopy?
It's that blue color.
See, I'm sorry.
It's web gray.
It's gray,
It's a blue
okay.
gray.
Thank you. It looked like it was. I just didn't see a color.
And I noticed in your elevations there, if you look at the side of that canopy, it's not open. That between the horizontal member and the sloped roof, it's solid. That's a solid material in there, if you follow me.
You're saying this is filled in vertical? Do you have the Google?
I can.
I have, well, I've got pictures I took. But
Okay.
What are we looking at?
The canopy, the patio canopy. what
Well,
you
let's see, I'm looking at this. Maybe it's, okay.
Yeah.
Anyway, all right, very good.
Here's a Google image, street view.
Are you saying the Taco Bell side?
I guess I was looking at the front of the building, the front patio. It seems like it's maybe not the side then, okay.
There
Okay,
are
all right.
beams. Does it let you walk in there? I have some photographs I could probably pull up.
Yeah, there you go.
Well, there we go, okay, all right.
Yeah, you're seeing the structure.
Okay. All right, anything else for the applicant this morning? I will ask, is there any public comment about this application this morning?
I did have one more question.
Okay.
Okay. Gooseneck lighting, what does that look like?
Oh, it's on the building.
Selected your fixture yet?
Hang on.
We were going to match the existing. We were told from a vendor that it's pretty available. It's not anything special. So we had fixtures before that had to get imported, and it's not one of those sort of situations. Our lighting vendor said it was common. Or common is not another good word. Traditional that you could find readily.
Not too big, not too little?
It's perfect size.
Right there. How's that?
All right, so all black,
Yeah.
I guess
A red
that-
one over the salt sign would be black. That's where our sign would be.
Speaking of that, signage, where are you going to propose signage to occur?
That same location. On our application, we show a box that's approximately 35 square feet. We're allowed 56 square feet on the Main Street side. And I don't know technically if they wanted to. At the moment, we haven't planned for it, but on the Marietta side, they can have up to an 89 square foot sign. on that side.
Can you go back to your newest elevations and just kind of, we just want to make sure that it's going to complement the building. We don't necessarily, I guess we will see the signage because it's in the downtown district, so.
So, yes, but that sign that he has, that style, is reminiscent of the style he's going to do.
The style,
It's
the
gonna be
round?
It's going to be square.
Or is it?
Square.
It's going to be square because their logo's more square.
Okay. So where is that being proposed then?
Same spot as it was, right there.
Okay, and this is the South Main Street side.
Facing Main Street, yes, sir.
And then how about was there something proposed for Marietta Street?
At the moment, they're not planning on it
Okay, so just one,
at the front.
all right.
Yes.
Okay, and then I assume you're probably going to change out the face of the monument sign too.
There's no sign on that. He had said sign earlier, but it's really an existing monument sign.
Just brick,
It's just
two
a big-
brick
it's
monuments
just a
that are
brick
empty.
now. There's
Oh.
two, there's nothing on either one of them.
Yep.
They're just brick.
Okay,
If they want to be monuments.
Just brick.
okay.
Nothing on them.
Yeah, it's plain blank.
Okay,
Yep.
Sure.
Should they be used?
I guess it is.
Yep.
isn't it? You know what? Wow.
The two monument signs, they're not our landlords.
Whose are they?
No, public.
Somebody
Public sign.
dropped a monument sign and walked away, I guess. I don't know.
Public.
Code enforcement needs to get out there.
That's,
I like that looking.
There's no plan to
Signage
utilize
on
it.
there?
okay,
Like literally, like I reached out to the landlord.
So it's literally a brick wall.
Yeah.
It's actually serving a purpose because there's a lot of utilities there as well.
Green wall.
And guide wires for the light poles and things and transformers, so.
creeping fig opportunity.
You've got some extras.
Signage. We'll get signage on there.
All right.
Okay.
we
All right, yes, we have. All right, anything else for the applicant this morning? All right, so we've looked at site plan, we've looked at landscaping plan, and we've looked at exterior elevations and materials. So if folks want to craft some motion, or craft some motions, that would be wonderful.
Public comment?
I'm going to ask. Yeah.
Okay.
And
I
we
can do
make them small motion so that it's not all in one motion.
Yeah, I was going to do,
Site from landscaping from.
Just don't want one huge motion. It needs to be,
I was going to do two. Okay. All right. Mr. Chairman, regarding DRB 250017 Little Alley Steak, I would like to make a motion to approve the landscape and site plan submission with the following conditions. The landscape island adjacent to the Main Street entrance will be widened to accommodate a new pedestrian sidewalk connection from the Main Street sidewalk, which will utilize the pavers to match the city sidewalk material and pattern, and will continue across the drive to the building entrance. The applicant will increase the density of the landscaping shown around the dumpster. All existing landscaping that is damaged during construction will be replaced. The applicant will provide irrigation as part of the new landscape improvements. The creeping fig proposed at the building will be eliminated. End of motion. around, of landscaping around the dumpster enclosure. All existing landscaping that is damaged during construction will be replaced.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Mr. Rowan, a second by Ms. Palmer. Any comments or questions about the motion?
Did you hear the part about the irrigation?
Provide irrigation.
Provide irrigation, creepy bed eliminate.
I can provide you my notes too after the meeting if that's it.
All right, any other comments or questions about the motion? There being none, I'll call for a vote. All in favor of the motion, please raise your hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. All opposed? No opposition. Motion passes 7-0. All right?
All right, building.
Got the exterior elevations and materials.
All right. Mr. Chairman, regarding application DRB 250017 Little Alley Steak, I'd like to make a motion to approve the building expansion submission with the following conditions. The existing EFIS cornice will be utilized at the top of the parapet around the new building addition. If necessary, the applicant can put a metal cap for water intrusion at the top of that. The access ladder proposed will be painted to match the adjacent wall material and will be strategically located, utilizing the least amount of public view, and will be approved by staff. And the existing meters, utility meters, will be relocated at the east elevation to accommodate the architectural features of the elevation. End of motion.
Second?
Okay, we have a motion by Mr. Rowan, a second by Mr. Owens. And I'm assuming your language about approve the building expansion is, we're referring to the documents we looked at today.
Yeah,
not
correct.
that were in our package.
That's right, because
Okay.
the packet had the cornice on there.
Right.
Well, and the packet didn't have the.
It didn't have the
The
articulation.
shutters and the things on the side,
Correct.
so.
Just want to make sure we're
Yeah.
As presented.
as presented.
As
Yes.
presented.
That's good, good, okay. All right, any other comments or questions about the motion? There being none, I'll call for a vote. All in favor of the motion, please raise your hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. All opposed, no opposition. Motion passes 7-0. All right, very good. Thank you for your time this morning. How
Thank you,
soon?
everybody.
When do you start?
Tomorrow, if he can.
Possible to actually start, we'll start very soon.
Very soon, okay.
Next, 3-4 weeks.
Very good.
Thank you very much.
Good luck, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Let's get them a minute to collect all their belongings. But the next applicant's going to be Continuum Multifamily. So get ready to come on up, please, or come on down. All right, I'll tell you what, we'll do another short recess.
Do I need to grab the samples, or is that it?
Yes, if you want to do
Yes.
that.
Short recess. recess and get going with our next applicant. But, okay, so Continuum Multifamily. Welcome, good afternoon. Introduce yourselves, speak into the microphone, and then give us a review of what we have in our packet today, please.
You bet. Thank you very much. We're excited to be here. My name's John Long. I'm with South City Partners. We are mixed-use developers located here in Atlanta, Georgia. And we, my partner, Mark Randall, and Brooks Young are behind me over here to the right. We also, if you don't know, we're developers with Sherry Morris Fellows with City Center, which we've all enjoyed. Just excited to be back and working in Alpharetta. In this case with Southwest Value Partners, who have master developed Continuum, and as you noted, we're the multifamily component of that project. Our plan is to develop a top-of-the-market, highly amenitized residential community. It will include 3 large common areas, club rooms, an iconic pool deck that sits out over what will be the kind of the lawn of the project. There's an expansive, passive internal courtyard to the project, a rooftop club room, and then much like we did out here, you know, artfully selected storefront retail and restaurants. I mean, that's the overview of the project. There'll be 280 1- and 2-bedroom apartment homes in the community. I'll introduce now for the presentation itself Ben Hudgens with Brock and Hudgens, who's our architect on the project. And then also Brian Dodd, who's with B+C Design Studio, who's a landscape architect. We've worked extensively with both of these firms over the years, and I think done a lot of really great projects with them. And then also, just lastly, Chris Harrell with Summit Engineering is also here as our civil engineer.
Okay, good. All right, you've got the crew. Good.
Great. Good morning.
Good morning.
My name is Ben Hudgens with Brock Hudgens Architects. Address is 530 Mean Street. It's Atlanta, Georgia, 30318. I'm glad to be here this morning. I'll walk you through just a quick overview of the project. Then Brian will get into more streetscape design, getting into some landscape and hardscape elements, and then we'll look more closely at the building itself. So you all are familiar with the site. Currently, about 350 surface parking spaces as part of the Continuum master development. We're excited to turn the surface parking into something more useful. The site organization, and this was discussed during the workshop a little bit, you see Windward Parkway there to the north, but the site is rather insulated from 400 and from Windward. Just a quick check on the zoning conditions specific to the multifamily development here. We, as John mentioned, 280 units total, a mix of 1- and 2-bedroom units per the zoning. That's a max of 30% 2-bed. John did a quick overview, best-in-class amenity package. This is top of market. Rooftop amenities are part of that amenity package as well. We have architecturally stepped the top floor of the building back. This is the west side of the building that faces that central common area. We'll look more at that in the renderings. And then the parking space count, again, providing parking on site for the residential and the retail. We expect to have a couple of restaurants here as part of that retail program. Any additional parking required per the zoning, obviously we've got a parking agreement, shared parking with the master developer. That was part of the parking study that Kimley Horn provided through the zoning. So this is the site plan. What you'll notice here is the parking is central to the building. No parking is exposed, except where we have the drive entrance at that street level. So obviously opening into the garage, but we've taken that garage access both on the north and the south and used that to break the building into 2 blocks. So the perception is that we've got basically two buildings with a hyphen between. You'll notice on the left side of the plan there to the west, this is the retail and commercial frontage. We do have about 12 feet of grade change from the north to the south. So we've been really thoughtful about how we deal with retail slab steps, providing direct access to sidewalk, accessible path into all of those spaces. But then on the east side, the residential street frontages, which are such a critical part of the project, we've been super thoughtful with the units. All street level units have direct sidewalk access with porches to take what is a rather big building and make it feel more intimate along the streetscape. Programmatically, again, the break in the building that I mentioned, which you can see here north to south, parking garage, central, the retail space there along the left side, the pool deck that John mentioned. We made a decision early on to take the pool, which you might normally find in the ground, in the interior courtyard, and actually put it on display, put it on the corner, that showcase corner of the building. Gives us a little bit of massing relief on that corner, help break the building scale down, but also features what is going to be a really, really nice pool courtyard. And then the lower level, so again, the site falls north to south. The lower portion of the building, again, garage access, and bringing that retail all the way around from the top left corner all the way around the street to the bottom there. In Axon, just to get you oriented, this is that retail frontage along the western street there. That inside of the building at the pool courtyard, which again provides some massing relief and helps us feature that pool courtyard, and the building step back there. So we'll look more at the building architecture materials in a minute, but Brian will walk you through the street level landscape and hardscape.
Thanks, Ben. Good morning. I'm Brian with B+C Studio. As John mentioned, we were involved with the city center, so we know the expectations that the board and City of Alpharetta expect. So I figured I would kind of start high level, and then we can kind of zone in on certain areas if you would like to. So a building this size and the amount of landscape going in, we feel it's really critical to design consistent material throughout the project and not get hectic with material and kind of establish a status quo throughout the project. This includes, hardiness, shade-tolerant plants, wet, feet if needed, shade trees as expected along the street. And then as we move kind of from the streetscape into the residential zone, we really feel like we need to create that walk-up stoop experience, and Brock Hudgens and Ben did a great job to kind of, as you see on this rendering, centralize the sidewalk up to the stoop that leads into each unit, which is a really cool residential experience. So in landscape means we, want to create kind of accent plants when you walk up the steps, and then kind of foundation plants that stagger from, a little taller to down to the ground cover. And then kind of along the sidewalk, there's a sod strip, about 5 feet. So it creates that residential, feel when you're walking up into your unit. On the south side, as mentioned earlier this morning, the street running north to south and east to west is kind of the main access from Windward down to West Side Parkway. And we're working with the master developer and their landscape architecture team to create a really unique streetscape there. To the south of our project, across Creek Street, there is a existing creek there with plants and trees that are going to remain. So what we're trying to do is, as you can see, there's different symbols. So as we go north to south, we're using hornbeams, and then we're moving into bald cypress, and then some London plane trees.
Do
And
you have a drawing we can zoom in on, you can point out the stuff as we, instead of the general broadcast a little?
A master plan. I guess,
Yeah.
or a zoom in portion, I guess.
Well, just if you could, if with a cursor or something like that, if you could.
Oh, okay.
March us through it.
Okay.
Or the mouse.
Thank you.
Sorry about that. Yeah, so these are kind of oriented a little different, north being this way. So Creek Street is to your, page west. So again, mentioning hornbeams. Oops. Okay. All right, so the hornbeams kind of moving. You mind doing that? Sorry about that.
I always need an assistant.
Here, just use the mouse.
All right.
Clear.
Yeah. Hornbeam moving east to west, and then we move into bald cypress, London plane trees, back to 3 more bald cypress. So what we're basically doing there is mimicking what would happen onto a creek, in the existing trees across the street. So we're kind of orienting and kind of recreating that creek feel that will kind of blend in with the tree save that we're planning on doing with the master development. So that's.
So those trees, like a hornbeam, already exist across the street, is what you're saying?
At the kind of where we meet, not at this portion, we're having to plant with the master developer and the infrastructure. Yeah, so. Yeah, so right in this area is where the existing trees kind of pick up and the creek are. Here we'll recreate the streetscape. So the LA for the master developer are, and this LDP is in process as we speak, are creating the streetscape here, and then we're tying in on the other side, and then we'll soon meet up right here where the existing tree save will be.
So thematically, y'all are coordinating all this stuff together so that it's a consistent streetscape on both sides of the street as you move through the site?
Yes, sir.
Okay. That doesn't.
Yep.
Retail.
So Brett, when they come in for the stuff across the street and all that, and we'll pull these drawings up.
Yeah,
They're consistent?
The intent, whether that gets specifically reviewed that way or not, I don't do that. So, but I will make sure that the LDP team knows that,
And Pat, also, we are working with David Showstack, so I have had a meeting with him, and we are understanding that we are having to work with the other group to make sure this is in line and the tree caliper matches up and stuff like that, and the recompense is all intact. So we've had conversations in that regard.
Great.
So the next kind of highlight is our retail frontage. As Ben mentioned, on this page, east to west, it falls about 11 feet. So we're creating a kind of pedestrian path down below, and then we're creating 3 terraces for the retail. So as we mentioned earlier, we want these retail spaces to be very approachable. So we're very mindful for these walls to be as low as possible and meet up with grade and kind of die into grade, and it kind of gets bigger as they go down the street. But we're also trying to keep it under that 30-inch range. So we're not going to have to do railings, fall protection, but it's kind of a fine line. Right now we got it kind of worked out, but we're continuing to fight that battle. So that's the end. This really shows up well in the renderings later on to really get the feel
What
of
are your
it.
trees in front there on the Piedmont spine?
The Piedmont spine, those are Franz Plantain hornbeams.
I'm not super familiar with that one, are you?
I'm not either. Is it a canopy tree or a?
It's
cone?
really upright. We have some out on, I think, Commerce. I think they might have been Transfontaine or a European hornbeam.
What's height spread?
Probably 10 feet, 12 feet. We really want to keep those views open to that retail and like get views into that area. So we don't want to cover that up. And like I said, yeah, they get pretty tall, but they keep really conical, that shape.
So, I myself, and I'm cognizant of retail, years and years and years of retail. My preference on that out in, thank you. My preference out there in front, because of the mass of this building and the height of this building and how the sheer size, what is it, 5 stories tall, 6 stories tall? It's a very large building. My preference, and I don't speak for everyone on this board, is to get a much larger tree than rather a narrow thing in front. I get what you're trying to do, but you got 5 trees out there. What's the length of that streetscape?
It's about
roughly
310 feet.
So I think you need to get something that's a little larger as far as canopy. I don't speak for you at all.
I think I
don't speak for the
agree.
board.
Yeah, and the purpose of those trees is to provide the shading for the parking and the pavement as well. Over time, they can be limbed up to provide the visuals that we need to the retail.
All right.
I
definitely
think
do
I
that.
agree, yeah.
And that's planned west roughly, right?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
We are providing kind of more decorative trees up against the retail frontage, kind of flanking each patio of this retail. So we're starting off with a paper bark maple, and then these 3 are Syrian maples, and then we have 3 river birch. So we have our kind of decorative, more pedestrian-oriented trees that really give you that cool bark and everything as you're on the pedestrian level.
River birch, though. Well, it's the roots and everything, but, okay. And can you speak to those walls? I think I saw some elevation that showed that streetscape and the
Yeah,
walls,
and-
that sort of thing.
Ben will dive into that a little bit more,
Okay.
but they're just brick walls with brick caps, and then kind of the entries of each, we're doing a little pedestal with a planter on top that kind of accent that entry to that retail frontage. And then we also have, of course, pots up against the building, similar to we have in Commerce and Main Street here.
Okay.
And
And is
then-
it concrete up to wall? In other words, concrete sidewalk straight into vertical wall element?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
For the 3 right here, and then we're kind of the iconic, retail possible restaurant. We're introducing maybe a paver there to kind of accent that side view there. We also have a paver banding that kind of goes from east to west that kind of also accents the entrance into retail. And then it also carries down into our leasing frontage as well. So, lastly, I guess kind of, one thing we want to bring to the board's attention in the city of Alpharetta is we're proposing a art installation on the corner here on top of this wall. We know that's really important with the city of Alpharetta and the Cultural Arts Center, so we really want to be involved in that aspect of this project. I know it's part of the zoning, but we would like to kind of include that in our site as well. So we'd like to work.
That was a condition?
Yeah, I think it was a condition, yeah. So we want to introduce that and definitely work with the Cultural Arts Center and, see what that looks like.
You think you'll be enlisting an artist to come up with something, or?
Well, I know Trey Adams in our
I
office.
see some nods over here.
Yeah.
It's a process for sure.
Yeah, for sure.
And what are those trees on that corner?
These are.
Those are hornbeams?
These are elms.
Those are elms, okay.
Yeah. So, just a couple side things to note, I guess, and then we can kind of zoom in if you want. We kind of do flowering trees where the parallel parking is. So where we're not able to kind of do those overstory, we are kind of putting some, more decorative trees that when you're kind of going through and that space opens up, you have that decorative look, and with your foundation plantings behind that. That's kind of high level, I guess.
Coming off that corner in front of the retail, and that is on the east side there, in front of the retail, is that also stepped down to retail level? Is there a wall that I see there, especially at the?
Right here.
Yeah, that, and then as you come down, I see furniture and stuff separate of sidewalk.
Yeah.
As you come down.
So coming east to west, we are having to do a wall, which leasing sits about 3 foot from this point right here in the sidewalk.
So it's below sidewalk grade?
Right.
Okay.
And then we're stepping down into the leasing here.
Okay.
There is retail and co-work in this area. This is ed grade with leasing, so this really creates a nice frontage into your leasing and nice open. So we're able to work out grades there. The art installation would sit on a small wall, which at this side right
Be
here.
raised, right?
It'd be only 18 inches here.
Okay.
And
And then
kind of-
at the very bottom end of the retail there, where pink meets orange, is that a wall?
Yeah, that's a wall holding up this retail.
So
It's-
sidewalk below or above in that
This
spot?
sidewalk's above, this is 2 feet below at street level.
Okay, so, all right.
This may be a question more for Mr. Long than you guys. When we talk about retail, what type of retail are we looking at? Is it a restaurant? Is it a women's dress shop? Is it a chocolatier? Is it just trying to understand the.
I think we will be expecting 2 restaurants, more of a larger iconic restaurant on that corner.
Okay.
And then probably something that's serving the 2,000 office workers type of restaurant, more of, I don't know, I'm not going to say it's a sandwich. It was more casual, would be more in line. Then, as mentioned, we're going to do a fair amount of co-working space, both for our residents and outside. And then what's intermittent or what's in between, it will be more service in nature, I think, or I don't know that dress shops will go, in a location like this. That's not really, it'll be, it could be a salon. It's more of destination things, or where people from across the office would think of that use. But
Okay. I'm just trying to figure out how we kind of try to really engage the sidewalk and what's right outside the retail.
We're very focused on that, much like out here. The restaurants, for sure, will sort of dominate the feel, I think. And so the way we've designed it is very much with that in mind.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, good, thank you.
Just questions probably for our landscape architects on the board to help out with this, but I'm just thinking, it's a very tall building. And I'm wondering on the plantings on the north side of the building, they're gonna get really almost no sun, I would imagine, right? And I think you have Bermuda there, for example, and I know Bermuda likes a lot of sun. I don't know what all those other plants are. But I'm just I just get a feeling, having struggled with Bermuda in shade at my own house, right? I just have a feeling in 2 years that Bermuda's gone on the north side of the building.
I agree. Can we zoom in on that specific then?
Yeah, we were very cognizant of the shrubs, but I do tend to agree Bermuda we might need a substitute with some possibly fescue or, shade tolerant grass on that side, just to ensure that the sustainability of that grass holds up over time.
To Frank's point, and yeah, good catch. I mean, in my opinion, any type of turf grass, zoysia, Bermuda, fescue, any of them, I think you're destined to fail.
Right.
And I think you may be better served if it's a ground cover type.
Yeah, I mean.
I'm looking to my left as always. See if I have any confirmation or
Yes,
affirmation
I mean, I
of
think
that.
that's a little safer over
Okay.
time.
Maybe a mondo grass or,
Yeah,
yeah.
something highly shade tolerant.
Yeah,
Or
we're definitely
any-
on board.
Any spreading ground cover.
That'll look great and still get that residential kind of walk-up feel.
Yeah.
So you wouldn't be able to do it in cool season grass, since it's irrigated. I'm thinking out here at Brookside, they've got that whole office park out there is all fescue.
Just
It's
over time with
irrigated, like,
fescue,
every
fescue is
day.
so maintenance heavy and irrigation heavy and.
Okay.
And.
Just thinking of, that's their only grass. That's the
Sure,
person's
well,
only.
Fescue doesn't take foot traffic very well. After a while, it starts
true, too.
fading.
Yes.
Once you get Fido out there and.
Well, I was gonna say, that's where the dogs are gonna walk.
Right.
Or do their thing.
But I, for the most part, I think the plant materials should do okay from what I'm seeing. Jennifer? You seeing that's alarmingly,
Maybe not the Distillium. There might be a couple that you might
reconsider?
reconsider.
On the north side, you mean?
On the north side.
Yeah. Yeah, we used a good bit of U too, so maybe we can switch that just
Yeah.
all to kind of U there.
I'm anxious to see what that blue zinger sedge does. I just ordered a couple.
Okay, any other, let's go, can we go back up to, let's see, which corner is that, the northwest corner? Yes, head straight up. I noticed like a blue, keep a little bit higher on your, keep going up. There's a blue area there in the sidewalk.
That's just a ground cover.
Okay.
Again, we kind of wanted to keep that view when those roads meet open a little bit there, so thought a tree would kind of cram it a little bit.
For those planter pots that are set on top of the walls, is that intended to be annual color, seasonal color?
Yeah, I think probably most likely. We might want to plant it with something, kind of tall in the middle, make a little more decorative, the seasonal color, but of course, that's kind of up to maintenance, but.
Well, so that was my other question. Will those be maintained altogether, or are those the individual retail that would be responsible for those? Would they all look different, or would they have the same theme carried across the front?
I guess that's a good question. What kind of city center?
I think city center is all one.
Yeah, I believe the multifamily,
I wouldn't think they'd leave it to individual. Yeah, I wouldn't think so.
yeah. So it'd all be one kind of blanket style.
They might get somebody out there that wants to treat it to what they want. Well, you guys figure that part out.
Do that at midnight.
And I'll be interested to see when we get to building elevations, what the facing of those walls looks like, and, just, I'll reserve judgment on if we want to try and introduce something on the wall, or, I don't know.
Okay.
I'm not sure yet.
I think for the most part, you're talking about the brick walls? Or
The walls that meet up with the sidewalk. Sometimes it just looks a little harsh when it's just concrete up to a stone wall or a concrete wall. And do we want to do any site furnishings now or later, or? I guess I can talk landscape all day. I'm sure they would too.
I'll tell you what, why don't you just back one slot, you just go back one, all right, just kind of walk us through those inspirational images.
All right, so kind of the top three are kind of that retail front restaurant style. It's very similar to Avalon, where we're kind of creating borders with planters. The middle two here is just kind of the river birch, kind of the decorative plantings, kind of the overflow, the sweeping grasses that kind of come down the retail frontage, which you'll see kind of in the renderings a little bit more. This picture and these pictures are kind of just play on, the retail seating and kind of the leasing seating, kind of more fixed seating here, and then movable seating that kind of spreads around with, depending on how many people are, at that particular retail place. These are just kind of paver plays. These are the kind of the accent border that I spoke of, kind of a linear pattern that kind of ties in the whole retail frontage down to leasing. Again, this is kind of just sweeping grasses with planters that kind of go down the retail frontage towards leasing past the brick walls. We're introducing possibly kind of a bench at leasing, and this is very similar to that, kind of warm textures, that what that would look like, a cedar bench. And then these are kind of the overflow planters that would sit on the pedestal with each retail entry.
If those things sit on the pedestal, they're internally drained and internally irrigated, that sort of thing, I would imagine.
Yeah, I think the plan would be for sure. We don't want the dirt spilling over those, so we would definitely put some drainage in there.
But at this point, are we looking at furnishings at this? No? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, good job.
All right, I'm sure there will be more conversation about streetscapes and landscape, hardscape as we
can't
go
help myself.
Through the views. So let's talk a little bit about the building. So a couple of things. Try to keep the material palette pretty simple, but make it rich and textured and interesting, leaning on the master plan design guidelines. And so what you'll notice here, we're using two different field colors of fiber cement panel. So you see the white and the gray. We've got paint chips for those. And then we're using this accent wood texture. This is a Nichiha product that we've used with good success on residential buildings. It brings a little bit of warmth in, and it helps code this residential against the commercial. You'll notice the commercial double height space on that main corner there, which we think, as John mentioned, hopefully is a flagship restaurant space. We have accommodated two restaurants, one on the corner, one inline with grease shafts to the roof, so easy tenant upfit there. Striking the horizontal across, holding that datum as the street starts to drop. The retail storefronts and slabs step along with the sidewalk to provide continuity, which you can see here. So you'll notice the building step back at this upper floor. These are walkout terraces. Again, this western facade of the building overlooks the kind of central commercial space, which you can see kind of in the foreground here. We think this is going to be a really, really interesting and unique pedestrian experience and building facade. This is where it's most varied. Shadow lines from the step back and the horizontals, but keeping a very simple material palette, right? Instead of using so many materials all over the place, try to keep these three main materials. You'll notice portal paseo connecting the retail parking out to the sidewalk, which happens sort of mid-retail span there, providing convenience for folks entering the parking garage at this upper level to be able to park on the flat plate, walk directly out to the sidewalk for easy access to the retail there.
So,
This
a quick question, sorry if you said it and I missed it. The wood look material is, what is that?
Nichiha. Yeah, it's Nichiha, and I have samples.
Okay. And you've continued that same material kind of back on the balcony insets.
That's right. Just in these select high-profile areas, just to provide that richness and depth. You'll notice here the brick, which, as Brian mentioned, these site walls that are sort of grounded. We worked hard to find a brick that was not too tan. Didn't want something that had too much color. Wanted it to feel more like kind of a subtle reference to almost a granite, like where it's got a little bit of warmth and depth to it, but we've got sample board of that as well.
Ben, why don't you just hold that up for us just while you're talking about it so we can get a visual on, or maybe.
So the Nichiha, and we can pass these around, the field color with the metal, and then the brick.
Okay, all right, got it.
The brick itself. So working down the streetscape here, these retail terraces, super important part of the retail viability. Thanks. Yeah, you can see here So as the building is stepping down, the retail holds the sidewalk elevation, the slab step down. Eventually, we get down to a full building step. And this is where the leasing is on this corner, art installation right there at the intersection of the sidewalks, and then retail extending around to the right side there. You'll notice the pool terrace here above that leasing shade canopy. We think that this is going to be really, really unique to this development, showcasing this as opposed to, like I mentioned earlier, tucking it into the inside courtyard. We think this is going to be pretty iconic and memorable. Also brings some relief to the building massing at this corner, where you might expect the building to actually come together and hold the corner. We like the erosion there at the corner. So again, simple material treatment.
Do you have enough height over the leasing area to drop a pool in there?
That's what I was wondering.
Yeah, so good question.
That's good.
So the pool is, the pool box itself, lower portions of seating around the building itself. But yeah, careful consideration in section about those heights, how the pool box integrates structurally. We've been working through all that, so good question. You're right, if the pool were sitting at that terrace level down.
5-foot ceilings
Yeah.
inside.
That's right. That's right.
And all the brick is that brick. The walls, the building, any place we see brick, it's that brick.
That's right.
Okay.
Yeah, that's right.
What color, the white area, is that, what material is that again?
So fiber cement panels. So
Okay.
the white and that medium gray are those
Got
paint
it.
chips that you've got there. This is the north side of the building, that garage entrance with the building break. You'll notice here that where we get more residential, we're bringing the brick, those first 2 stories, creating a nice metal roof. This one is a little more contemporary, fitting with this building style, but in some ways functions a lot like the stoops across the street, where they feel residential and they provide an extra design depth and texture along those street frontages. So we've got a very commercial corner, and then we transition to a more residential approach.
Do you have any concerns about the snowbound color on the north side of the building as far as it, do you have any kind of like mildew inhibitors or anything on the fiber cement board? We've seen that a lot where after 2 years it starts turning green or...
Yeah, good question. The paint spec that we use will have to address that. It's really more of the paint and not the fiber cement, but it's something that we'll certainly take a look at.
You're going to get it.
Yeah.
Again, material palette here, the brick and the panel, which are the primary field materials, accent material with the Nishiha vintage wood. We've got the metal trim and accessories, pre-finished aluminum at the retail canopies and where we've got those retail storefronts. Building elevations, these are just the 2D elevations. And then this study was really meant to show that condensers will be screened from as far away as Windward Parkway. The reality is, if you're standing on the streetscape or standing on the sidewalk just across the building, you can never see what's happening above the parapet. If you get far enough away, that's when you start to see those condensers sometimes, as they look like little teeth sticking up over the building. In this case, we're showing as far back as Windward and how the parapet will screen those condensers.
So you've got like 280 condensers on the roof or something like that.
We do. We do.
Okay.
That's right. We are able to, we do have a little bit of roof space for the retail that happens between the garage and the residential building. There's a gap there to deal with the retail, but yes, we will have condensers for all of those units on the roof.
Okay.
Do you guys have any large like makeup air units that will be 6 or 7 feet high?
Probably no package systems for the corridors in the amenity.
Okay.
Typically, we're doing those with conventional split systems, so smaller, the smaller typical condensers on the roof with the air handlers in the space.
Gotcha.
We found that to be just the preferred way to go. So none of the big, tall
Yeah.
DOAS or package units on the roof. I'll flip back to some of these views if we want to.
So are all the balconies usable balconies, walkout balconies for residents?
They are.
They're not just faux, they're actually
That's right, and we are. I think in all cases we're showing, with the exception of these corner balconies, which are which you might consider fully inset, even though they are on the corner. The rest of these are partially inset, partially projecting, which we like because fully inset balconies sometimes get a little dark. Having the projection of a couple of feet on the facade gives a little bit more texture and shadow there. But yes, these balconies are all accessible from the unit. And as I mentioned, these top floor units have walkout terraces that are pretty deep and would be pretty nice, those top floor units.
How are you guys dealing with the bathroom, kitchen, and dryer exhaust from the units?
They will go to the exterior.
Will they be kind of on the inside of the balconies so that they're not all littered all over the facade?
Yeah, ideally, they are as many as possible captured in the balcony return so that you're not looking at them on the building face. The reality is you will still have some wall caps just because you've got to keep those distances between exhaust and intake. So you will have a few wall caps on the building facade, but.
And they'll be painted to match.
That's right.
So when you say a few, what's a few? I think a few is like 2 or 3.
More than 2 or 3.
All right.
Not per unit, though.
No, more than 2 or 3 on the building, not more than 2 or 3 in each unit. The issue is when you get into a 1-bedroom unit that's got a balcony and this exterior window bay, you can generally get most of what you need in the balcony.
Right.
But again, there has to be certain linear separation between those, which oftentimes pushes some of those to the facade. So I understand your concern.
You're referring to
I'll just put it out there real quick. One of the spots that we're dealing with this sort of came up, but didn't really get nailed down quite this hard, and so staff had an issue with it, and it's the projection.
The projection.
The projection from the wall of the vent or the so we've got a site that I could take you and show you that they decided that 12 inches was what their plumber or whoever thought the pipe needed to extend from the wall, and for example, so that's, I understand that your intent would be to try to make them match the wall, but there's also all of that's involved, and so since we're talking about that here, I'll just let it know that that's going to be something that I have to look at, and I think their intent is to make them go away as much as possible, so sticking a foot off the wall is not going away.
Aren't they just going to use hood-style vents with screens on them? Or?
Yeah, I mean, typically they would just be the little canted cap. I mean, we have used, John's probably going to get me for saying this, but we have used more of a, on really prominent facades, we have used like an aluminum Seho vent with a little hood on it with the flapper. That's metallic, right? It's not field color.
The more that you could inset them on the returns, also from a maintenance perspective, like when you have to
access
for the dryer vent and stuff, you don't have to climb on the side of the building. But this is such, in my opinion, like a great looking facade. It would be a shame for it to be littered with a bunch of, aluminum hood vents all over the place.
So you think on the 1-bedroom units, you're going to have to do that. Put them on the outside wall. I'm thinking there's what, 60, 70% of those are one-bedroom units? So 70% of 280, so 200 units?
I don't understand why. Is it the distance from the window that makes it?
So it's the distance between intake and exhaust and the distance between operable window and door. So we can work to frame these balconies in a way that we can try to get them on opposite sides of the balcony. I mean, generally we're 11 or 12 feet in width for the balcony itself. So 10 feet is kind of the rule.
What's the intake for?
Well,
is it for makeup air? Or
yeah, it's for air to units if we're not relying on natural ventilation of operable windows. So in this, we haven't gotten that far with our MEP engineers as to how we're dealing with makeup air for the units, whether we're ducting or using operable windows, but that's one thing that usually comes into play with locating those vents.
Another potential option, if it helps, is to locate it in the soffit of the balcony. That really makes it go away, if that's possible. This is wood frame?
Wood frame, yeah. over concrete podium. Yep.
Okay, yeah, we're just trying to make the exterior elevation look as clean.
That's great.
As
It really looks good.
possible.
Understood.
All right. I'll tell you what, can you go, let's go to the first floor retail and kind of zoom in on some of the architecture, kind of the elevations or the materials there, if you will, please. Just kind of walk us through the materials, for instance, and what you see what's going where.
Sure. So site walls and our portal entry are brick, aluminum, pre-finished aluminum storefront for the retailers, metal canopy and metal for the retail field. And that goes for all the way down this retail facade. So again, we're using fiber cement for the residential up high and the Nichiha, and for the retail we're using the brick for site walls and the metal storefront and metal accents. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, a little bit. I'm thinking too, of course, you've got the restaurant or the potential restaurant, I guess, on the corner there. And then you've got some other retail establishments on down the way. Just trying to figure out what's consistent or what's going to have to change, or sometimes like in restaurants, you don't, that lower pane of glass, horizontal pane, you don't want to be necessarily clear, so you're not looking at, the underside of booths or tables or whatever. So I think we need to kind of consider what's going inside versus what you're going to see from the outside. And right now, it looks like it's just clear glass, I guess, is what you're proposing.
It is, and part of that, I hear your concern about what you're seeing. Sometimes you might bring a sill up to a certain height. In this case, again, going back to the master development and the design guidelines, this one takes a more contemporary take on style than a more neighborhood commercial or downtown type retail. So we really leaned into that and tried to keep it, glass all the way to the sidewalk instead of, elevating sill height with some opaque, wood infill material below sill, things like that, that you might find in more of a downtown setting. So that was intentional. If we need to revisit that, we certainly can do that. But
I'm just thinking the last applicant that we had, they didn't want much glass at all in their dining area, for instance. So they wanted the ambiance all to be focused on the interior side. So
Look, I think it might be a good time. I know the board hasn't seen for a long time, the images, and there's only a couple images that city council saw way back in, I didn't realize it was even that far back, but in 21. So
You want me to unplug?
no, you don't need to, if you want to switch to me. So this is the high level view again, and remember these are just pretty pictures. This is the building back here that we're looking at currently. These buildings are the 2 HP buildings. This is, they showed us some stuff of an office building right here, and then the sort of downtown park. So some field views inside. So you can see, I think, where he's talking about, they're wanting to bring glass all the way down and just so it feels more open. And then when we get down here, there was a couple retail inspiration kind of things. And then there's just a couple of residential. So the building above it, basically. So that's what city council saw a long time back. I think it's pretty close. I think the what happens on that bottom level, I think the top's probably got it because there's a lot of in the residential part for city council, there's a lot of different stuff, and it is a lot more contemporary.
So the retail level, or some of the retail level, is the pedestrian level, and that's where it's really going to be engaging for any of us.
Yes.
They don't know who the retailers are right now, so is it safe that we can ask the applicant to come back to us as they get land retailers to show us what how that's happening at the street level? Because right now we're kind of it's generic, right?
I guess the problem is retailers change all the time
Well,
too, right? It could be somebody else in there.
So I guess the question would be to John, how much freedom of design for the exterior are you going to give a tenant? Are you going to say, nope, here's your aluminum storefront and your glass? Or are you going to encourage them to, say, as we did in Avalon, to create their own lower level with their own thing so it looks more like a street?
I guess the answer is it depends on the tenant. And I'm not trying to be funny when I say that. There's, a smaller, coffee shop. They're going to take probably the space that we provide. Now, that restaurant on the corner, they're going to have the option when we are doing a lease to change their storefront, and it will be conditioned on our approval, your approval, everybody's approval when they go to pull a permit. So, that's historically how these have worked, and having sat for the last 3 hearings before this, I'm pretty confident you guys will have your opportunity to do that if they submit for a permit and they're changing the storefront. So
I could see,
I
I could see someone coming in and wanting like a nano wall or garage door.
That's exactly right, but it's all going to go through a process, and the people that will be giving $50 for $40 for build out, they're not going to change the storefront. They're going to build they're going to take what we've given them. So that's why I said it depends. But that's the reality of what we're doing. I would expect 70% of that storefront to remain just like we've proposed it, because it's really beautiful, and I think it'll resonate.
And I think that's a
some that'll
good
want to build
way.
it out, and I think you already have a process to deal with that.
I think that's a good way to go about it. Avalon started out saying we want individualized storefronts for everybody. They didn't give them a choice. You have to build out a storefront. If you saw Avalon before it was open, it was beautiful building and
that's right.
slab wall on the front, and they went from there. They didn't have glass, and there was nothing on the lower level. So they had to do something where this, I would agree, it's very nice looking, just knowing that, and I'm sure they'll put it out to their tenants, that you can have this. You want any change, you deal with the approvals. And then they would come here, small things like, okay, well, we've got this whole big painted glass. We want to put in an operable all-glass garage door. I think I could do that. I think I could approve that. If they did. You know, a nano wall. We want to open this up to an all-glass nano wall. Well, it's basically, when it's closed, it looks exactly like what it is, and when it's open, it's even better. So we could do that. But if they want to change colors, change, you know, add, then I think it needs to come back here.
And I would have expected that would be required anyway.
Okay, so, all right, very good. Sorry, we kind of went down a rabbit hole, but that helps.
That's good.
Okay. Any other questions for the applicant?
What about exterior building lighting? Is that something that's going to be approved today, or?
So, exterior building lighting?
Like uplighting or accent lighting?
Yeah, so building lighting for residential buildings is pretty tough, because you don't want to
shine in.
with light spillage in the units. So there could be lighting along the retail facade. I'm not sure that's contemplated here, but I wouldn't expect any uplighting on the residential portion of the building.
Are we approving any specific street or bollard lighting or anything of that nature?
Just leading to that, streetscape would have.
Yeah, I think that's part of the streetscape.
It does
there was
have
placements
lighting.
of that.
Yeah, it had all the, I think the design guide had all that in. Yeah, in the master.
Oh, it is? Okay, so we don't need to approve any of that.
It's in their package. They showed some street lighting.
Yeah, it's in there, but it matches what we've done for the whole
previous.
site.
Yeah, perfect.
In the one place I would think you would have some exterior lighting is at the entrances to the ground floor units.
Yeah.
Or maybe where's that breezeway? That
Or canopy lighting, you know, for the retail and stuff.
Brett, there was mention of council conditions. Are there any council conditions that we need to be?
I think you showed them, right?
No, not that affect this particular building.
Okay.
Can we go back to those retaining walls real quick, please?
Sure.
And your elevations show them really well.
And before we get there, I know it's after 12 o'clock, and we're supposed to take a break at 12 o'clock, but at the board's leisure, I'm going to say pleasure, I'm going to say, let's continue on this discussion so we can.
I second that.
Okay, good.
This is a union shop.
Get paid overtime.
So the intent on that is to have just a brick cap, no precast, nothing like that?
That's right, brick cap on those walls, and we're trying to hold them just barely above that patio elevation, so they get taller, obviously on the low side, but from the patio side, we're just trying to hold them, you know, the cap height above.
30 inches is your magic number, right?
Well, that's what, yeah, exactly, and that's what Brian was saying, is that's the battle, is keeping this less than 30 from the paseo to that upper wall, so we're not having to do rails.
Hopefully that's not a bar in that spot. I tend to like some sort of a precast on top of those walls. When I was I was thumbing through some images of things like that, I tend to like a precast rather than just a regular brick. And I don't know where the rest of the board is with that.
I like the look of the precast better. The only thing is that sometimes it's more subject to staining and stuff, especially outside of restaurants, you know, people.
Well, but then on the flip side, if you've got brick like that, you get effervescence coming through, so then the cap kind of helps prevent that. So I guess there's.
Good point.
I guess you can look at it both ways.
Yeah, we went back and forth on this one internally. John, I don't know if you have particular thoughts on it. I think at one point we showed cast stone caps, then kind of debated it with the development team and design team, and ended up with the brick caps just for a little bit of extra texture. I like the cast stone. Sometimes it can look a little institutional if it's not done just right with the right height and the right profile, but I don't know that.
Are you expecting people to sit on these walls? Or is it more for?
They will.
They will.
I mean,
Expectations has nothing to do
I
with
can
it.
tell you the intent was for these walls, and think of what you got out here, was to be low enough so that it doesn't feel like you're in this cage. You go to the restaurant and you're in this. The idea was to keep that sidewalk open and flowing. And so those walls, if you look at them carefully, they're just really short. And the intent is to keep them short so that they're not, I mean, yeah, you can sit on them, but you're going to go down to 18 inches to do it. It's not, I mean, that's not the intent. The intent was more to create a flow that addressed the sidewalk, that kept it from welcoming, because the last thing we want to do is to create these, here's our what patio you normally put on the back or the side of your restaurant. Here, it's on the front.
So a good example that I was looking at was Canton Street, where Coalition and all those restaurants are along there.
Mhm.
It's almost an identical streetscape to what this is. It's red brick with a cast stone cap. And so that's why I was looking at this and I was going back to that. And I really like a cap.
I will say, though, that it's a lot harder to roller skate and skateboard on a brick top than it is a cast stone top. Hence, potentially, the city have put in a no skateboards in the city center area kind of thing, because we had an issue.
We went back and forth on this. I mean, we're trying to keep it contemporary. I'm not sure. I mean,
I don't know where the board
a
thinks
little
of
more
it.
traditional, a la
I like it.
Canton Street. So I mean, it was we were all over that.
What-
I don't know there's a right answer. It's the preference.
What about, oh, sorry, go
I
ahead.
think it adds one little layer of more sophistication
Pat,
to
what-
the.
I like the way it's shown here.
Like that one?
Actually, I do.
I
It's
personally like the
clean.
brick.
Okay.
Pat, what about, well, this is just another thought to take Pat's comment into consideration. Like where the planters are showing and the entrances to each of the tenant spaces, what if you had precast kind of helping to define those entrances?
A little
to
more of a
break it up a
column?
little bit?
I think
No,
that's
no,
how
just
they're
same
showing
height,
it.
but just have a precast cap at the entrances.
so like in this rendering where those
Planters
potted,
are.
those round potted
Yep.
plants are, that would be the precast cap.
It's like 4 inches taller, or whatever the thickness of the cap is.
It almost looks like
Like
precast.
a-
Yeah.
They did it there.
In fact, I guess it is.
It would give a better arrival experience
done.
for the tenants.
Great idea. You would agree to that.
You were just waiting for that, weren't you?
We set ourselves up.
Okay, do that.
Okay,
I feel we got
anything-
set up on that.
All right, I don't know whether I asked for public comment. Is there any public comment about this application this afternoon? Any public comment?
So Brett, how are we handling furnishings and pots and all of that?
Well, they had, in the overall thing, they had
All part of that.
they had a kind of a thought. I don't think we're gonna look at this gets this, that gets that. Since this is a managed property, we sort of let them, almost think of it as all it's an interior. So we sort of give them a little bit of free rein if we see something or they are like, I don't really know about this, and we want you to be the bad guy, we're happy to be the bad guy.
Do you guys get into where, the bike racks, right, for instance, does that fall into code? You have to have one every 150 feet? I thought I.
No, they just have to have so many, and that's that. I will, while we're right there on that question though, or on that screen, I do have one question about the brick part of that cap. Is there a reveal to that at all? Or is that flush up and across? Does it have the appearance of a cap, or is it just
We'll want a drip edge. We'll want it to project.
Little overhang.
Yeah.
Okay.
We'll want it to overhang the vertical wall. Yep.
Yeah, just something that makes it, this is the end. Yeah,
And
okay.
it's intended to have a grout color just like that?
Yep.
Sample? All right, enough about walls.
So the only thing on the elevation materials, really the only thing we talked about was the vents on the side of the building, right? then perhaps what we do with that is just say, because it sounds like they don't really know where they're going to go yet until they get further along in the design, that they would bring that to you for approval on what they're going to do with any side venue.
I think there was enough discussion that, yeah, there'll be adequate thing for me to go out and say, well, that's not what we talked about.
Let me,
I actually do have one more question. In the pool area amenity, is there an outdoor kitchen or anything planned for underneath that pavilion area at the corner?
We will have a grill station, outdoor kitchen, bar area, located about where that shade structure is.
Imagine the restaurant that's underneath there will probably have a vent that waffles right up there and wants like a, yeah, we'll take to-go orders right up here.
To-go orders at the pool.
But I guess, I don't know, would the finished side of the outdoor kitchen face towards the street? Would that be visible from the street corner?
How far along are you in the design for the pool area?
It's conceptual.
Conceptual. Sometimes the devil's in the details, so that's just kind of what you're referring to.
I think so, yeah. It's a very prominent corner of the
What
building.
is the question or concern? And I can tell you if it's addressed. Yeah.
Well, just so, like, if there's an outdoor kitchen underneath that pavilion, whether or not you had the grill side, like the functional side, facing outward, or if it's interior to the courtyard, or if you had a nice clean finish, facing
It's interior
out.
to the courtyard. It's not that, you're gonna see an element edge of that.
We don't plan it underneath the structure. It's kind of set.
At the back corner? Okay,
Kind of close
okay.
to the club
That was-
area, so it's not close to that.
That's just a seating area at that front corner? Okay.
That's our marquee floor.
Yeah, that's like a bar ledge usually.
Mhm.
Versus four windows function.
Right.
Do you see any, for the pool area, just thinking you've got some people probably want to, stay in the shade. Will you have some other shade structures available or?
We do currently have two cabanas that are closer back in that back corner. You can't really see them, but programmed back along this edge. They provide some additional shade and kind of private seating that's covered. But the cabanas plus this shade structure really are the only areas for shade there.
Okay.
Of course, the club opens out to the pool, so you have the ability to go in and out of the club as well.
Okay. So we've got, well, we really don't need to approve the site plan, right? Because that's been done by the master plan that we did. So we need to approve the landscaping plan.
Elevations, materials.
And extra elevations and materials, okay?
All right, should I do two? Prefer two?
Brett, the comment that we had regarding the shade trees on the west side.
It's
Does that
fine.
need to be in the motion, or those need to be canopy trees?
I put it in.
Longer trees, or is that-
Should.
I put it in there.
inferred in our conversation?
It's inferred in the conversation, but.
I've got it in there.
We need
I've got
to
it
put
in there.
Yeah.
I'll listen to you.
Dude, I'm just gonna take the rest of the day off.
Mr. Chairman, regarding
All right, here we go.
application DRB 250015, the Continuum Multifamily Project, I'd like to make a motion to approve the landscaping with the following conditions. Along the Piedmont spine in front of the retail, provide larger canopy trees in lieu of specified final selection to be approved by staff. On the north side, substitute the Bermuda grass with a shade-tolerant ground covering that will thrive more in the shade, like a Mondo grass, final selection to be approved by staff. The applicant will reconsider any other shade-tolerant or landscaping on the north side of building that will thrive better And a motion. Is that it?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Mr. Rowan, a second by Mr. Corkle. Any comments or questions about the motion? I think you covered everything, right?
I think so.
Seems to be, okay. There being no further questions or comments, I'll call for a vote. All in favor of the motion, please raise your hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. All opposed? No opposition? All right. Motion passes 6-0. All right.
All right.
Got the landscape done.
Mr. Chairman, regarding application DRB 250015, Continuum Multifamily Project, I'd like to make a motion to approve the building exterior with the following conditions. The kitchen, dryer, and bathroom exhaust vent and any other makeup air vents will be located on balcony returns or balcony soffit ceiling as much as possible. Any vents located on the main facade will be painted to match the adjacent surface material, with the location and quantity of these vents to be approved by staff. The applicant will provide precast caps along the sidewalk wall in front of the retail at locations where there are breaks in the wall and entrances into the retail patios to the tenant spaces. End of motion.
Second.
Okay, a motion by Mr. Rowan, a second by Mr. Corkle. Comments, questions about the motion? I think I covered all the.
I mean, that one rendering shows.
Everything.
what we're talking
Yeah.
about, the caps.
Yes, that's true. Okay.
Whether that rendering, verbally.
All right. There be no further questions or comments about the motion. I'll call for a vote. All in favor of the motion, please raise your hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. All opposed, no opposition. Motion passes 6-0. Okay. Second was Pat. All right, you're done. Thank you
Thanks.
for your time this
Yep.
afternoon.
Thank you.
Appreciate the presentation. All right. All right, oops. I guess, all right. Just a friendly reminder, our next meeting's Friday, June 20th, and there will be no further business and no further objections from fellow board members. This meeting is hereby adjourned. Thank you for your time today. All right. 12:25.
Jennifer and I claim half of that conference.